The small council chambers were still cloaked in the familiar scent of dust and parchment when Varys let the door thump shut behind him. He paused, head cocked, robes whisper soft as they settled around his bulk. The Hall of Lamps had long since surrendered its candles to the hour, but thin orange lines seeped through shuttered latticework, painting fang-like rips across the floor. Far below, King's Landing dreamt of triumph and terror, wine-soaked revelers praising a Baratheon victory that was no victory at all, exiles creeping through flea-bottom's alleys, and ships bobbing in the black water, their sails fat with gossip. Lord Petyr Baelish waited at the room's heart, silhouette sharp as a dirk against the wane glow. Even in dimness his smile glittered. "You creak like an old door, my lord. Were I the nervous sort, I might swing first." "Thou. Were you nervous?" Varys replied, gliding to the council table. "I should worry I'd misjudged you." He laid a pale hand atop smooth oak scarred by generations of schemes. "Instead, I see you haven't slept." Littlefinger's chuckle was a silver bell rubbed smooth. "My ledgers keep me up better than wine." He gestured to a wine ewer anyway. "But tonight's account is heavier than gold. Shall we drink to it?" "No." Varys folded his hands. "We will need sober heads. Honestly sober ones." Petyr's dark brow arched at "we," yet he poured only a single cup and sipped, languid, never taking eyes off the eunuch. "Very well. I presume this summons means our king is dead. Robert Baratheon yet breathes, though his heart flickers." Varys drew a breath that tasted of the crypts beneath the Red Keep. His boar wound festers faster than Grand Maester Pycelle can pretend otherwise. By tomorrow's dawn the bells may toll. Someone must decide who rings them, and when. "Cersei will do the ringing," Littlefinger said. "Then she'll wrap the bells in Lannister crimson and choke the realm." He lifted his cup in mock salute. "To the Queen Regent, first of her name, rider of wolves and debts. The Queen will find the wolves already prowling her halls." Varys opened his sleeve, slipped out a folded parchment crisp as snow. "Ned Stark's confession is nearly penned. He will admit treason to spare his daughters, and the mob will cry for his head. Joffrey wants blood." The spider's voice flattened. "The realm won't stomach another Targaryen purge. And gold dragons will not mend the chaos when Tywin turns south. Benderwum? Unless someone else holds the dragon pit's keys," Littlefinger murmured, fingertips tracing a gouge in the table. "You propose we leash the lioness?" "I propose we shear the realm of lions altogether." Varys leaned closer. "Robert's bastards are everywhere, yes." Petyr's smile grew. "But they're bastards. The lords will kneel only to a name, not a rumor with black hair." "True," Varys conceded. "So we give them a name they cannot refuse." He produced a second parchment. The wax sigil was Baelish's mockingbird. "Rosby and Stokeworth beseech you for coin enough to refill their storehouses. They are weak reeds, but reeds bend, not break. Warp them into the reeds of a crown, and we grow a throne beneath Cersei's nose." Littlefinger unsealed the letter, skimming the desperate handwriting. A hum bubbled in his throat. "Clever. 2 empty houses hungry for purpose. Yet even with trade loans they lack swords. So we knit them to lords who do possess swords, lords Joffrey will cast aside once Stark's head falls." Varys tapped the letter once. "We craft a shadow regency. You handle the coin, I the whispers. Each lord thinks he serves his own ambition, but their ambitions braid into ours." "And die." Petyr's grin sharpened. "And in whose name do these lords convene?" "Prince Tommen." Littlefinger laughed. "Plump, pliable Tommen. Clever indeed. Joffrey's temper ensures chaos. Tommen's sweetness calms it. So we encourage the elder brother's worst instincts, fracture the court, then pivot to the younger as savior." He set the cup down, a clink like iron shackles. "But once Cersei learns we pit brother against brother, she will suspect me, not you." Varys' smooth face gave nothing. "I have played the foolish eunuch long enough that accusations slide like oil. Whereas I," Littlefinger mused, "remain the loyal master of coin, too indispensable to offend. The perfect lieutenant. Regent. Varys corrected softly. Shadow Regent. I remain nothing. Silence yawned, filled only by the restless city's distant roar. Peter's tongue wet his lips. Ambition flared in hazel eyes fast as wildfire. You speak treason, my lord. I speak preservation. Dragons once ruled. They burned. Robert ruled. He drank. Cersei will rule. She bleeds the realm by inches. But we, unseen, we may stitch the wounds. Let the realm breathe. Ben. Littlefinger looked down at his reflection in the wine. When he raised his gaze again, it glittered with promise. A spider and a mockingbird. Fine company for a lion cub. He offered a ringed hand. Varys clasped it. Eddard Stark, chained in the black cells, dreamed of snowflakes. They drifted past iron bars before dissolving into the stench of mold. He clutched them anyway, each flake a memory of Winterfell's crisp dawns, of Bran laughing from a rooftop, of Arya's shrill whoops as she toppled into powder. In dream, he could almost hear Robb's bark of command, Jon's quiet assent, Catelyn's sigh when the wind kissed her auburn hair. Then snow melted to red. Ice cracked. He awoke to chains gnawing his wrists and the scrape of a door. Footsteps whispered. A torch's heat reached him too late for warmth. Lord Stark, Varys murmured, voice coated in sorrow. How fares the north tonight? Ned lifted his head, bearded and gaunt. How fares honor in this nest of vipers? He rasped. Varys crouched, heavy robes pooling. Lesser than yesterday, but not yet dead. He produced a parchment and quill. I come as messenger. Not jailer, not judge. Ned spat blood-tinged saliva. Your messages killed men in deserts, eunuchs. My lord cannot forget that. The words cost breath, but truth lent strength. What do they want now? Your life, Varys said simply. And your children's. I can save them. Ned barked a laugh that cracked. You mean Cersei can, if I kneel to her bastard boy. Once, perhaps. No longer. Varys placed the parchment in Ned's lap. But, confess treason. Swear fealty not to Joffrey, but to Tommen. Second son, rightful king under gods and men. Stark's head jerked upward. Tommen? Alive? Gentle Tommen. The name trembled. Why should Cersei accept my allegiance to her younger son? She will not, though she might feign it. Varys's dark eyes glittered like wet pebbles. Others, however, will rally to Tommen's banner if a Stark leads the call. Rosby and Stokeworth, houses sworn to crown yet wary of Lannisters, lords of the Riverlands disgusted by Jaime's raids, silenced tongues eager to speak if given a voice. He tucked the quill against Ned's fingers. Be that voice. Ned stared at vellum, words blurring. To bend again, to yield, to twist truth for survival. Yet every path he had taken thus far had led only to blood. Sansa and Arya, he whispered. I will not trade them for politics. They will be exchanged northward to Winterfell under Rosby guard. Safe. Varys hesitated. And there is more. Robb marches south with Riverrun's levies. The realm teeters. A Stark endorsement of Tommen may halt slaughter. Ned closed his eyes. The weight of honor pressed like stone. Honor had caged him. Pride had cut his men. Yet here lay a chance, fragile as frost. What of Stannis? He is Robert's true successor. Mensawal. And unlovable, Varys said out almost tenderly. He would burn half of Westeros clean to rid it of filth, then curse the ashes for choking him. The small folk will not love him, nor lords abide him. Tommen they will. Stark's pulse thundered. He felt the quill's feather, soft as a child's kiss. If I do this, he said, Tommen must vow to free me after coronation. He will. Varys' voice hardly wavered. And you will return north before winter's howl. Ned dipped quill. Ink bled like midnight wine. In the throne room the next afternoon, sunlight poured through high windows, gilding dust motes and the crowd alike. Cersei Lannister stood beside the Iron Throne, golden hair bright against a severe black mourning gown. King Joffrey slouched on jagged iron, tracing a blade's edge with idle finger, expression twisting at the thrill of pain. His lords clustered, Renly Baratheon flushed with ire, Grand Maester Pycelle stiff as a corpse, Sir Barristan Selmy a white cliff eroding by degrees. At the rear, Littlefinger melted between shadows of pillars, while Varys drifted along wall tapestries like a pale moth. Eddard Stark was dragged forth in chains, his face hollow, but when his gray eyes lifted, they locked on Tommen, who stood by Myrcella clutching her hand. The boy's fear shone clear. Ned's voice boomed despite weakness. "I stand before gods and men, a traitor," Stark proclaimed. Gasps rippled. "I plotted to usurp King Joffrey, son of Robert." He drew a breath sharp as a sword. "For this I bend the knee, to Prince Tommen of the houses Baratheon and Lannister. Second of his name, whom the realm may yet embrace when rightful time comes." Pycelle sputtered. Renly's eyes narrowed. A hush fell so profound a raven's flap might have seemed thunder. Cersei's lips parted, but rage strangled reply. Joffrey's shriek cracked marble. "You will kneel to me, old wolf, or follow your friend's head onto our walls." Ned's knees hit stone. "Then I kneel," he said quietly, "to whichever king the gods anoint this day. May they guide the realm to peace." The crowd roared confusion. Lords whispered like knives. Cersei stepped forward, regal fury tremoring her veil. "The traitor confesses yet sows doubt. His words are wind, remove." "Yet he kneels," Littlefinger interjected, voice carrying. "Treacherous he was, but contrite he stands. Mercy would glorify our new king." Varys bowed deeply. "Sir Baelish is wise. Joffrey's reign begins with benevolence. The small folk will cheer." Joffrey basked in flattery. He sneered at Stark. "Very well, take him to the black cells. We shall discuss his fate after the games." He waved a dismissive hand. Selmy and 2 gold cloaks led Ned away. Varys watched blood draining from Cersei's knuckles as her grip whitened on her gown. Satisfied, he drifted past, murmuring condolences to a lady from Duskendale. Chaos blossomed faster than wildfire. In the Street of Sisters, small folk huddled at taverns debating Tommen's name and claim. Some swore they'd seen the Seven's statue tilt its head, a sign the warrior favored the younger prince. At Rosby's manse outside the Dragon Gate, armored riders departed beneath dawn's blush, bearing sealed letters north, west, and reachward, each script coaxing vassals to weigh Tommen's virtues. By night, 4 crow cages rattled as black wings launched to White Harbor, River Run, Old Town, Sunspear. Within the Red Keep, Cersei waged war of whispers. Coins passed to kettlebacks, scrolls burned. A baker's boy who repeated Tommen's name over Joffrey's was found floating in Fleabottom's gutters. But each suppression bred 10 rumors more. At council meetings, Littlefinger turned ledgers to prophecy. "Wheat prices soar," he'd say, frowning over inked columns. "Yet House Stokeworth predicts bountiful harvest if only caravans travel unmolested. They propose escort levies, a generous gift to our well-born merchants." He slid a parchment to Tywin's proxy, knowing carriage guards meant more swords under his purse. Varys, meanwhile, informed Pycelle of new plague signs in the Riverlands. "Rats flee the fields, Grand Maester. Famine abets sickness? Should we not expedite healing clergymen? Perhaps allow septons to preach Prince Tommen's charitable cause." Pycelle, too wearied to oppose charity, shrugged assent, and thus town after town heard of little Tommen's grace. Renly Baratheon, sensing wind shift, disguised suspicion with smiles yet dispatched Sir Loras to Storm's End with quiet instructions. "Weigh highways gossip, tally which banners might fly for a gentler king." At Highgarden, Lady Olenna sniffed the breeze and penned curt commands to her sons. "Hedge for Tommen, yet hold rosebuds until thorns appear." Everywhere, branches twisted toward uncertain light. When Robert died 3 dawns later, the bells tolled as Varys predicted. Yet they rang not solemn grief, but confused dissonance. Some towers pealed the royal cadence for Joffrey, others a softer chime once reserved for children. The small folk argued which year would name itself in records. The year of the twin kings, jesters chirped. Or of the lion's tongues, muttered smiths. At the coronation feast, Cersei draped Joffrey in crimson cloth of gold, thick like molten sun. The boy king pranced amid nobles who forced cheers. Tommen, in plain black trimmed purple, stood aside clutching a carved stag toy Renly had gifted. His wide blue eyes tracked every gesture of his elder brother, puzzled by roaring approval that bordered fear. Littlefinger moved through clusters, bestowing whispered condolences, reminding debt-ridden knights how quickly a new coin master might forgive obligations. Varys offered gentle pleasantries to Cersei, promising raven dispatches to Dorne, advice on calming restless lords, glimpses of guiltless pity when her gaze drifted to Robert's throne set for burial. That night, somewhere between the last chorus of minstrels and the first snore of drunken lords, a hooded shadow slipped through the maiden vault and pressed a letter into Tommen's trembling hand. Words inside spoke of duty, kindness, and how true kings earned hearts before crowns. It was signed in neat, clashing strokes. Eddard Stark. Children have long memories. Tommen's already brimmed with wolves. Storm clouds massed above the Crownlands when news erupted from the Riverlands. Jaime Lannister's outriders burned Beric Dondarrion's column at Mummer's Fort. Lord Beric vanished. The small folk wept of dead sons. Yet ravens soon followed. Ser Adam Marbrand marched with 500 Lannister spears toward Harrenhal, Tywin's gauntlet closing. Littlefinger posed beside Joffrey's map of the Trident, flicking die boar pins shaped as lions. "We cannot fund constant war," he told the Green Boy King. "The realm's coffers bleed faster than your swordsmen. Debts to the Iron Bank fester." Joffrey sneered. "Then raise taxes, or seize Stark gold." "Tommen's name sells bonds at half rate," Littlefinger said almost conversationally. "Merchants trust his charity." He moved a stag sigil between battered towers. "Offer amnesty to river lords if they swear to Tommen. They will fund victory against Stark rebels and bolster your image of mercy." "But they are my enemies," Joffrey snarled. "And the imp says bonds are for men who cannot win coin through war." Petir's lips curled. "A wise king uses all weapons. Take the vow yourself, but wield Tommen's innocence as shield and spear. There is precedent. Aegon's sisters pacified old kings with sweet words before Drogon's fire." His voice dripped honey. "Let your brother kneel with them. Call it service. The realm will witness lion and stag stand together." Joffrey looked to Cersei, who studied Littlefinger with a harpy's gaze. But possibility glimmered. Use Tommen as mask. Push foes into false security. Strike later. She nodded once. "Very well." Thus a royal decree spread. Prince Tommen named Avatar of Mercy, emissary to houses wavering between crown and rebellion. Lords who balked at Joffrey's tantrums found polite invitations stamped by Cersei's seal requesting talks with the younger princes, envoys, or dewoys. Behind each envoy rode Rosby spearmen outfitted by Baelish coin, and behind them rode quiet sellswords bearing spider tokens, Varys's whisper knights. Meanwhile, Robb Stark's host crossed the Twins, banners snapping wolf-gray under stormlight. Yet ravens from his captive father changed marching tunes. Letters bore stern orders. Staunch bloodshed where possible, accept calls for parley under Tommen's banner. The boy is kind. The lioness may yet be declawed. Robb raged but heeded duty. Catelyn read between lines, glimpsing her husband's reluctant strategizing. She urged her son to hold his line north of the Trident, ready but restrained. Tyrion Lannister, freed from the Eyrie and galloping toward father's host, arrived to find the lion host smaller than rumor foretold. Already, crackling debate with river lords forced Tywin east rather than north. Delays sparked by letters affixed with Tommen's sigil. The imp sniffed intrigue and suspicion that stank like Lysine perfume. As whisper networks thickened, so did Cersei's dread. She summoned Pycelle, seeking names of courtiers praising Tommen. Pycelle, scattering drawers of raven coats, named a dozen knights, yet each knight also swore fealty to Joffrey at audience hours earlier. Frustration starved Cersei of sleep. She scolded Joffrey when he threatened a baker for stale bread, then scolded Tommen when craftsmen cheered him along the city wall. She sensed strings on her son's limbs, but when she tugged, she only found more knots. So she turned to the last ally she trusted, Sir Ilan Payne's mute sword. Letters went out. "Bring me the fingers. I care not for the tongues." But bodies found in ditches bore no spider sigils, no Baelish mockingbirds. Instead, they carried tokens unknown. A slender reed etched with waves, Rosby's new emblem, harmless minor house. Her assassins vanished or returned with coin heavier than their loyalty. In desperation, Cersei approached Varys at dusk, dragging him to the empty royal sept. Candles flickered around maiden and mother statues. "I know your riddle games," she hissed, voice ragged. "Answer me this. When does a chain break?" "When each link forgets the next," Varys replied. "Spare me riddles. My chain phrase, tell me what you know." Varys looked to the mother's marble face. "I know Prince Tommen will never harm you. He loves his mother." He bowed. "Serve him, and you serve yourself." Her slap cracked the sept stillness. Varys did not flinch, only touch cheek with 2 fingers. "I serve the realm," he whispered. "For a realm at peace feeds all children, even yours." Cersei's eyes brimmed, half fury, half terror. She fled, skirts swirling like black smoke. The shadow Regency deepened its roots. Littlefinger manipulated coin to strangle foreign creditors, unwilling to back Joffrey's impulsive fleet expansion. Instead, Braavosi captains found generous harbor fees waived if they imported grain under Tommen's Pass. Dockside warehouses filled. Food prices steadied. Small folk credited the gentle prince. In secret accounts, pettier tallied favors owed. 100 ships, 1,000 sellswords, 500,000 dragons in future levy. Varys orchestrated whispers of Joffrey's cruelty, exaggerated but effective. A stableboy flogged for a nicked saddle became crucifixion. A septon shoved aside became blasphemy. Truth bled into myth until tavern songs pictured the boy, king drinking baby's blood. No carving needed. Joffrey's own tantrums polished each stanza. Soon gold cloaks clashed in alleyways, half commanded by Janos Slynt's greed, half bribed by Baelish quietly replacing captains with Rosby men. At a midnight muster outside the Gate of the Gods, 1,000 cloaks found their pay purses light. Baelish's riders offered double, under Tommen's standard. Janos Slynt awoke to discover only 100 remained loyal, and his resignation scroll already signed. The next dawn Varys appeared in the small council with a sealed document. "Lord Commander Slynt graciously retires to Harrenhal," he announced. "He suggests Sir Jacelyn Bywater for successor, a man favored by the prince for fairness." Cersei's eyes blazed, but Tywin's proxy shrugged. They needed order within the city more than Slynt's bootlicking. Joffrey whined yet accepted so he might race crossbows at Cask Kittens later. On White Harbor's docks, Manderley knights swore to provision Tommen's mercy fleet. In Dorne, Princess Arianne weighed the letters and saw opportunity for vengeance on Lannisters without open war. She hosted envoys with heated smiles. In the Vale, Lord Nestor Royce found his debts purchased by a mysterious benefactor, one who suggested young Sweet Robin might thrive under a kinder Baratheon's guidance. And all the while, Littlefinger dreamed of a seat grander than any Iron Throne, a web hummed by his strings, with cities for eyes and gold for blood. Varys dreamed of small folk with full bellies. The first true crack sounded when Sir Kevan Lannister received a raven. Castamere rebellion rumors resurfaced. He begged Cersei to release Riverland levies home to quell unrest. She could not. Marbrand still chased Stark outriders. Discontent sharpened among Western lords, their coffers stretched. When Baelish's agents offered low-interest loans in Tommen's name, more than coin changed hands. Banners did. At Harrenhal, Tywin received word that the gold cloaks now answered to Bywater, and by extension, rumor claimed, to Tommen. He summoned Tyrion. The imp read letters thrice, cackled, and stated, "Someone plays our game better than we do." Tywin's fist crushed a cup. Around Maidenpool, Beric Dondarrion reappeared, now calling himself Tommen's sworn shield. Small folk flocked, seeing a king who might yet bring justice. Beric's men harried Lannister supply wagons but spared villages, leaving parchment signed with Tommen's stag praising their forbearance. The Brotherhood without banners morphed into Tommen's champions. Songs followed them like gulls. Cersei struck back with wildfire, literally. She ordered Wisdom Halanein to line Rosby warehouses with jars, claim a grain mold infestation required burning. But a Rosby guard discovered fuses minutes before detonation. Grain survived. Rumor of the Queen's plot spread hotter than any blaze. In the throne room, nobles whispered behind silk fans. Tommen clutched Halane's sleeve, asking timidly why his mother wanted to burn food. The pyromancer paled, muttered only of duties to his queen. Littlefinger knelt before Joffrey that night, voice soothing as milk. "Grain nearly lost, your grace. Should supply fail, riots will blame Crown. Perhaps appoint your brother as provisioner. Let him soothe fears. You still rule. He merely calms the streets." "Ben?" Joffrey, bored of grain talk, waved assent. Tommen became Lord Provisioner, figurehead over warehouses staffed by Baelish's men. Bread rations doubled. Bakers carved stags atop loaves. The small folk chanted Tommen's name beneath the Red Keep walls until guards forced dispersal. Winter's first snows dusted the neck when Catelyn halted Robb's host among the willows of Seaguard Road, ravens clutching new parchment. The seal bore a reed. She broke it, read, then smiled for the first time since Bran's fall. "Sansa and Arya ride to us under guard," she breathed. "Tommen's guard." Robb frowned. "A Lannister promise?" "Perhaps," his mother answered. "Yet the escort is Rosby, and Eddard's hand guides this." Her voice trembled. "He lives." Robb studied the letter, reading woven between lines a father's pride. "If father forged this path," he said slowly, "we follow. I will treat with Tommen's envoys." The march south slowed to a thoughtful creep. In King's Landing, threads converged. One crisp dawn, Tommen stood on Beller's steps flanked by Bywater's gold cloaks and Beric's dust-coated riders. He read from a scroll taller than himself. His voice quavered but carried. "I, Prince Tommen of the houses Baratheon and Lannister, speak for the peace of the realm. I beg all lords to lay down needless arms." He paused, gulped. "My brother Joffrey commands through strength. I seek to command through kindness. Together, we will heal our father's realm." Crowds listened. Hushed. They saw Tommen glance to an aging wolf behind the cloaks, Lord Eddard Stark, freed, pale but standing. When Tommen announced Stark's release and return north as Warden of Winter, cheers shook the square. Even some lion banners fluttered half-raised. Cersei watched from a balcony, nails drawing blood from her palms. "He steals them," she whispered. "My own son steals them." "He is your son," Tyrion replied softly at her shoulder. "And perhaps what your father always wanted, a Baratheon face wearing Lannister velvet." He sipped wine. "Let him heal the realm. We lions have ruled enough for now." Cersei looked at Tyrion, hating his impish calm, but for once saw wisdom behind mismatched eyes. She turned away before tears could spill. But shadows breed within light. Littlefinger's private solar overlooked Blackwater's sheen as gulls wheeled overhead. Varys stood by the casement, admiring sunlight fingerprints across water. "Our seedling grows," Varys mused. Petyr sipped sweet arbor gold. "A healthy tree requires pruning. Pray your shears are gentle." Petyr's eyes sparkled. "Gentle as a golden shroud. Joffrey cannot be contained forever. Sooner or later the cub will bite." He set goblet aside. "Then the realm will accept the mercy of a single king. And Cersei will mourn a son lost to his own rage." Littlefinger's shrug was almost kind. Tragic, yet useful. Varys' lips thinned. "A boy's life is still a life. A throne weighs more." Silence thickened like hardening wax. Varys turned to the window again. We did not begin this to trade one tyranny for another. Littlefinger's laugh was barely a sound. We began it to survive. The realm thrives or bleeds. We stand regardless. Man? For the first time, Varys wondered if a mistake had been made, if his chosen partner's hunger outstripped even Cersei's. Yet the wheel had been spun. Momentum carried them both. When the first snowfall dusted King's Landing's rooftops, bells rang again, this time for war in the south. Renly had crowned himself at Storm's End, banners bright as spring. He claimed rightful king by popular acclaim, citing Joffrey's cruelty and Tommen's youth. He marched toward Highgarden, courting Tyrell might. Letters offering alliance to Tommen went unanswered, intercepted by Baelish's careful cull. For Renly alive meant more fractures for Baelish to exploit. Tywin raged, redoubling orders west. Stannis raised his fiery heart at Dragonstone, proclaiming bastardy for both princes. The Seven Kingdoms cracked along 3 new crowns, friction heating to inferno. Within the Red Keep's pulpits, Varys and Littlefinger stood amid spiderweb diagrams, banners, grain prices, sale counts. 3 kings, yet 4 thrones, Littlefinger murmured. Tommen, Renly, Stannis, choose your horse, my dear spider. Then, I chose the realm, Varys answered, though his voice lacked conviction. He stared at a crude drawing of the capital. Arrow lines marked wildfire caches, Cersei repositioned for insurance. Should these fires light, no king will matter. Then let us ensure the torch remains unlit, Littlefinger said, until we decide who holds it. That decision ripened sooner than expected. A fortnight later, Joffrey, bored by palace confinement, ordered a citywide tour. He rode atop a white palfrey, gold cloak shimmering, crossbow across lap. Tommen rode a dapple mare behind, guarded by Bywater's cloaks. The procession wound through Cobbler Square, where thousands thronged. Bread troughs borne by Tommen's wagons emptied into eager hands. Cheers for the younger prince drowned Joffrey's scowls. Then a rotten apple struck Joffrey's cheek. The king shrieked, blood trickling. He lifted crossbow, loosed bolt into crowd. A mother screamed. A child toppled. Panic exploded. Gold cloaks surged, but half followed by Bywater's call to shield Tommen, while the rest shielded Joffrey. Lines divided by mere footsteps, yet chasmed by allegiance. Joffrey, red-faced, commanded, "Kill them all." Cloaks hesitated. Rocks flew. Horses panicked. In chaos, Tommen slipped from saddle, helped by Beric's hand. They ducked beneath wagon, fleeing down an alley as riot ignited. By the hour's end, 20 small folk lay dead. 4 gold cloaks too. Stories flew faster than gulls. Joffrey shot a babe. Joffrey laughed while soldiers hacked beggars. Joffrey called Tommen a craven. When torches burned outside the Red Keep gates that night, chance named only one king, and it was not the lion cub. Cersei wept rage, slapping Joffrey until Tyrion dragged her off. Within hidden hallways, Varys guided Tommen to Maegor's secret passage, down to a stone chamber where Littlefinger waited with satchels. "Time to move the game board," Petyr said. To Tommen he knelt, gentle smile masking shark's teeth. "Your Grace, a true king must visit his people, even if his brother forbids. Shall we travel?" Tommen nodded, trusting. Varys laid trembling hand on the boy's shoulder, cold with dread. The spider had woven his thread, but now the mockingbird tugged it taut across a chasm. Above, riots kindled. By morning, the city would either crown mercy or behead it. North of the Trident, Robb Stark watched ravens swirl away from his camp. Summons from King's Landing, asking for parley under Tommen's seal. He bit his lip, tasting iron. "If Tommen rises," he told Greatjon, "we may yet save the realm." The Greatjon barked laughter. "Or dash it onto softer stone. The realm loves a cub today, might gut him tomorrow." Yet even he seemed undecided. Catelyn approached, eyes bright. "Our girls come. Your father lives. Perhaps the gods weave something other than death for once." Hope perched fragile on her tongue. Robb studied Horizon's blood-drenched sky. "Perhaps, Or perhaps new puppeteers dance behind the boy. We must meet them. He looked south. I will ride to King's Landing under flag of truce. War paused on a blade's edge. And so, as the year's first true winter gust howled through King's Landing streets, two shadows walked separate tunnels beneath the Red Keep. One robed in spider silk, carrying a little prince's hopes. The other cloaked in mockingbird feathers, carrying a kingdom's debts. Above them, a boy king scrawled fresh vengeance lists. A queen decanted wildfire into silver cups. An imp studied maps, and bells cracked air with alarm. Somewhere on the windswept stepstones, a red priestess closed her eyes, seeing 3 crowns in flames, and one shadow swallowing them whole. At River Run, a blackfish whispered, "Storms break, but rivers endure." Across the narrow sea, a forgotten dragon-born queen dreamt of smoke and burnt gold, not yet ready, but stirring. In the dark, Varys wondered if he had saved the realm or doomed it anew. In the same dark, Littlefinger smiled, certain only of this. When men scrabbled for thrones, the man who sold them chairs would never lack a seat. Outside, snow began to fall, soft as secrets. Oh, hey, ah, oh. Moonless night cloaked the black water in slick onyx waves as a single flat-bottomed skiff slid from beneath the Red Keep's wharf. Varys hunched in the prow, a pale lump swaddled in sealskin, the hood of a fishmonger's cloak pulled low to hide the gleam of his scalp. Behind him Littlefinger bent to the oars, dipping the polished lengths with careful rhythm, so no clap of wood gave them away. Between them sat Tommen in a plain wool tunic, stuffed lion doll gripped to his chest, eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. He had never been on the river at midnight. He whispered questions about the lantern light winking atop the distant chain tower. Varys answered in murmurs that sounded like lullabies while Petyr counted heartbeats and currents, mapping currents of iron and blood that would matter far more come dawn. When they reached the far bank, muddy shallows just inside the burned husk of the King's Wood, they found Beric Dondarrion waiting with 6 riders and 3 sway-backed garrons for Tommen and his keepers. The Lord of Blackhaven looked ghost-pale in the moon's silvery glow, his latest death wound, a ragged slice peeking from collar, still puckered purple. Yet his voice carried crisp through the reeds. "No crest, no torches. We ride as charcoal traders to Stokeworth's fallow orchards, then swing north along the Roseroad." Petyr nodded, hoisting the boy into Beric's waiting arms. "You will reach the manor by sunrise. Show the parchment with Stokeworth's seal at the hedge gate. The guards there already sleep on my stipend." Tommen clutched the lion tighter. "And mother?" "Your mother will join you soon," Varys crooned, though he doubted it. "Do as Sir Beric says, and write her letters every 7th day." He kissed Tommen's brow and stepped back. At once the garrons moved, hooves hushed on dewy grass. Within breaths the boy prince vanished among shadowy trunks, his escort melting into the dark like wraiths. Petyr exhaled, shoulders loosening as though a millstone dropped from them. "Half a crown removed," he muttered, pushing the skiff into reeds to sink beneath weighty stones. "Now for the rest." He offered Varys his handkerchief, arbor silk, emerald, and cream. "You tremble." "I fear what we may have birthed," Varys said, ignoring the cloth. "A Regency without walls invites every dagger in Westeros." "Daggers aimed at Joffrey," Littlefinger countered. "And at Cersei, who has begun sharpening her own against half the court." Tommen hidden, is Tommen safe? Tommen proclaimed, is Tommen useful? Only one path keeps the cub breathing long enough for us to fit his paws into a crown. "Ben?" He turned inland. "Come. I have a fast palfrey stabled in a brewer's shed near Muddy Way. By dawn we must be seen within the Red Keep, else lions sniff spiderwebs." He set off across packed sand. Varys followed, gaze flicking over the river where ripples already swallowed any trace of the skiff, as though the waters themselves conspired to forget Tommen Baratheon had ever been a prince at all. Cersei Lannister had not slept. Her solar reeked of spilt wine and cedar smoke, the hearth overcrowded with parchment remnants shriveled to black ribbons. Tyrion stirred the ashes, fishing out whatever intact lines he could salvage before the Queen arrived for fresh fuel. He found one scrap bearing Littlefinger's name beside a figure, a sum rivaling the Crown's quarterly income. Another listed Duskendale, tithes deferred to Mercyfleet. He pocketed both for later. A hard knock splintered pre-dawn quiet. "Enter," he called, expecting Vylar or Merrin. Instead, the door flew wide to reveal Sandor Clegane beneath a crust of soot. His helm dangled from one fist, its jaws cracked where a thrown cobblestone had split the snout. Blood smeared his cheek, though Tyrion doubted any belonged to the Hound. "Riots banked," Sandor growled. "Men patrol streets in pairs and threes. Bywater's banner flies at every crossing." "Good." Tyrion tossed burnt vellum onto the hearth. "No corpses hanging from Septi's arch. Too many to count. All wearing the lion. Small folk want your nephew's head. They cry Tommen's name. Can't say I blame them." The fool shot a toddler. Something like disappointment edged his rasp. The imp crossed to a window slit and peered at the murky yard below, where carts rattled under bundles shaped suspiciously like bodies. "Joffrey will keep shooting if he is not stopped." Sandor agreed. "Queen's begged him stay inside. King refuses. Says it's his right to watch them burn." Tyrion's jaw clenched. "Then he needs a new castle." He faced the Hound squarely. "Would you guard him beyond the city walls?" Clegane's nostrils flared. "On what road?" "Every crossroads full of hungry wolves. Riverlords, sellswards, even crows might take him." "It's safer for the realm if they do." Tyrion poured 2 cups of Myrish firewater and offered 1 D. Sandor declined. The dwarf drained both himself. "But we cannot hand him over gift-wrapped. We need him alive long enough to force Tywin's hand." He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Find Sansa Stark. Bring her to me before first bell. Girl's half-crazed. Won't eat." "I intend to feed her hope," Tyrion said. "And maybe trade her for calmer seas." Sandor shrugged massive shoulders and stomped out. Tyrion returned to the hearth, staring at glowing embers. Somewhere outside this fortress Tommen disappeared. In the void the court's delicate balance tipped toward red horizons. He wondered which cousin, uncle, or sellsword commander would be first to slice the tension with steel. 9 leagues east of the city, Beric Dondarrion guided his party onto a half-frozen game trail looping toward Stokeworth. An orange stripe led across the horizon, promising sunrise. Tommen dozed against the saddle-bow, wool cloak tied snug beneath his chin, the lion doll peeping from folds like a spy. Thoros of Mer rode beside them, face flushed under red-gold beard, muttering prayers to a god of fire for warmth. At a bend, Beric lifted a gloved fist. "Alt." The riders reined in. Ahead, in the gloom beyond sparse pines, a lone figure knelt beside a toppled cart, mule slain against the harness. Beric dismounted. "Who stands?" he called. The figure rose, hood slipping to reveal a woman's braid tipped in silver beads. Slender fingers displayed empty palms. "A traveler robbed," she answered, voice smooth as a summer evening. "My escort scattered when bandits descended." She stepped closer, light catching high cheeks freckled faintly. "Might I beg a ride to Stokeworth? Lady Tanda keeps a charitable hearth." Beric eyed her. Thoros leaned forward, breath pluming. "Strange path for a lady to walk alone." "Strange days," he said, smiling at Tommen with gentle eyes. Tommen straightened in the saddle. "We have room," he said before Beric could refuse. "The mule can't help, but we can share a horse." The woman's gaze flicked over the boy's features, round cheeks, Baratheon eyes, lingering half a beat too long. "You are kind." She accepted Beric's offered stirrup, swung up behind him. They rode on. Snowflakes drifted from an iron sky. The woman remained silent until they crossed a shallow stream glazed with glassy ice. There she leaned toward Beric's ear. "Does the prince know he is worth more than rubies?" Beric stiffened. "You mistake the boy." Her sigh fluttered like a dove's wing. "No cloaks deep enough. Word of the Mercy Prince fills every hearth between Maidenpool and Bitterbridge. If I know, so do others." She produced a small cloth pouch. Wolfsbane dust. Cast it on a campfire. Smoke masks scent trails from hounds. Use tonight, else lions run you down by moon's turn. She placed the pouch in Beric's hand, then dismounted nimbly at the next fork. I thank you for rescue. With that, she vanished among frosted heather. Thoros spat. Spy. Perhaps. Beric tucked the pouch inside his jerkin. Perhaps guardian. In these times I take any mercy given. Robb Stark rode south along the King's Road, gray wind loping at the column's flank, wind sharpening every exposed cheek to raw.d. Sir Brynden Tully rode beside him, reading the letter Robb still carried from Tommen's envoy. This parley draws you close to the lion's den. This parley draws us closer to my sisters and father. Robb tapped the parchment. If Tommen speaks true, Ned Stark returns to Winterfell within the moon's turn. I cannot ignore that. The Blackfish pointed toward the line of wagons trailing the host. Thousands march because the Lannisters made your father prisoner. If you kneel to a gentler lion, the men may howl. Robb's jaw clenched. I'll not kneel. I'll listen. A lord who spurns every opening for peace leads men only to graves. Dender. Behind them, Catelyn guided her own mount, eyes fixed on a patch of gray cloud. She recalled the whisper Beric's raven carried. Sansa and Arya escorted north. Yet rumor changed each dawn. Until she held her daughters, she would trust none. Still, she prayed the boy prince's mercy proved truer than his brother's cruelty. That night, their camp hugged a willow-choked bend of the Tumblestone. Fires burned low, as muffled as the talk around them. Catelyn walked the perimeter, cloak drawn tight, when she saw a skinny shape slipping past a wagon. The moon revealed a girl, ragged hair, too tall for a child, yet too slight for a woman. Catelyn's heart lurched. Arya. The girl froze, knife half drawn. A single step into moonlight revealed not Arya, but one of many refugees trailing the army. The woman, still a girl truly, bowed apologies and vanished. Catelyn's shoulders sagged. Somewhere her daughters wandered roads just as haunted. Behind her, on a stump, Maester Luwin warmed his hands at a brazier. He offered a scroll. Fresh raven from White Harbor, my lady. Lord Wyman reports grain ships sail under Tommen's banners. The Manderleys consider terms of neutrality. Neutrality is not loyalty, she said. The warmth pricked behind her ribs. If the North could eat, the North could endure. Robb strode up then, cheeks brilliant from wind. Scouts report a company of Stormlanders 2 days ahead. Banners of the stag in green field. Renly's men, they shadow our march. Catelyn met his gaze. Maybe they carry invitation. Renly courts lordly favor like a Singer courts coin. Men are widened. Or they count our swords. Robb shrugged. Either way, we press on. Parley is at Hollow Hill. 3 days' ride. The name whispered through Catelyn's memory. A hill riddled by secret caves, once a bandit haunt, now rumored to house Beric's outlaws. A fitting place for a shadow Regency to meet wolves. In King's Landing, dawn found Joffrey pacing the throne room, face swollen from lack of sleep and half-healed bruise. Cersei sprawled on the steps, cradling a cup of mulled wine, eyes ringed by bruised petals. Pycelle droned about grain shipments diverted. Joffrey dismissed him with a curse. Tyrion arrived with Sansa Stark clothed in charcoal wool, hair brushed shining copper. She curtsied with stiff grace. Joffrey smirked. Back to beg your father's life? I am here at Lord Tyrion's request, she answered, voice flat as sealed stone. He says the realm needs healing. Cersei's lips crimped. The realm needs discipline. Tyrion bowed. Discipline earned by mercy. Joffrey laughed. Mercy earned spit. The mob spat on me. I would gift them corpses. Cersei rose, temper crackling. My son. Tyrion cut in. Your grace, the people starve. Grain sits rotting because merchants fear riots. Appoint Lady Sansa to oversee a charity kitchens initiative. Her presence, northern innocent, might soothe them. Sansa's fingers twitched, but she showed nothing. Joffrey frowned, but the notion of parading a hostage as symbol pleased him. Fine. Let her serve. If they riot again, they feast on her, instead of bread. Tyrion forced a smile. Then we are agreed. He ushered Sansa away, not missing Cersei's suspicious glare. Another strand in the fragile loom, but perhaps one sturdy enough to hold. Outside the throne room, Shae waited, disguised as lady's maid, to guide Sansa to new quarters in Maegor's holdfast. Tyrion watched until they vanished. Across the yard Varys approached, whisper soft. Tommen escaped the city last night, he said, and Tyrion did not startle. He had guessed, but the confirmation chilled him all the same. He means to crown himself beyond our walls? Others mean to crown him. Rosby, Stokeworth, half the docks. Joffrey will lose the city if the mob believes the younger prince better loves them. Then Tyrion chewed his lip. Then we cannot let the mob know. We silence the tale. Too late, Varys said simply. Small folk carry truth faster than ravens. They saw Tommen's kindness, saw Joffrey's bloodlust. No amount of tongues removed will unsee that. The dwarf flexed stubby fingers. Then we must prepare King's Landing to endure siege, for siege will come when Stannis or Renly smells weakness. We need food. We need loyalty. We need walls lined with men who care more for coin than princes. His gaze flicked to Varys. Purchase every sellsword company this side of the narrow sea. Pay with Lannister gold. Varys inclined his head. It shall be done. Also, Tyrion added softly, find how Sir Jacelyn Bywater became Petyr's catspaw. If the gold cloak split when swords sing, I'll be trampled before I curse your name. Varys's smile was sympathetic. I will weave what webs I can, my lord. He drifted off. Tyrion looked up at the Iron Throne, jagged, patient, hungry. One day, he muttered, all those blades may finally cut the people they're supposed to serve. At Stokeworth, Lady Felice welcomed Beric's riders with forced cheer. Tommen was hidden in a nursery hung with faded banners of house swans. A septa bathed him, trimmed his nails, found him clean linen shirts 2 sizes too large. When Beric entered, Tommen sat on a window seat, watching sparrows peck frosted apples. They miss seeds beneath the snow, he said. Can we scatter grain? Soon. Beric pulled up a stool. Word has come. Your brother names you traitor. He offers a lordship to any knight bringing your head. Nenderol. Tommen's hands tightened on the lion doll. Why does Joff hate me? Father said brothers must stand together. Joffrey is frightened, Beric answered. He sees folks love you, fears losing his own. Frightened men lash out. I'm frightened, Tommen whispered. The brave feel fear and act anyway. Beric removed a silver chain from his pouch. This pendant belonged to my mother. It bears the 7-pointed star. Wear it and remember the gods watch your steps. He clasped it around Tommen's neck. Footsteps pattered. A maid arrived with 2 boys in tow, cousins of Lady Felice, both younger than Tommen, both gawking. My lady says Lord Pate will be here by dusk, the maid announced. He rides escort north. He'll take the little lordling as far as Rosby, then others onward. Beric nodded. The plan unfolded. Leapfrog escorts, cloak and dagger, until Tommen reached secure holdfast near Maidenpool, where Lord Sympathetic could gather for a conclave. The maid left. Tommen eyed the boys uncertainly. Then he rose, lion doll dangling, and asked if they wished to search the stable loft for owl nests. They scampered off laughing. Beric watched, feeling old wounds ache. A man stitched together by fire, shepherding a child toward storms. He prayed Thoros' god still favored resurrection. The realm might need more of it ere this game ended. Littlefinger returned to the Red Keep before second bell, robes dusted but face untroubled. In council he announced, Rosby granaries report vermin infestation far worse than suspected. Lady Stokeworth suggests emergency relocation of stores to city cellars for inspection. Cersei eyed him, suspecting mask beneath mask, but gave reluctant approval when Pycelle mumbled of weevils breeding. Thus Petyr's men would ferry wheat under banners of caution. Yet in secret each barrel carried scrolls pledging fealty to Tommen, to be slipped into bakeries and pot shops once inside the walls. After council, Petyr climbed to the Tower of the Hand, wherein personally appointed offices awaited. There he found Varys perched on the balcony rail like a gaunt white owl. "I trust the river was kind," Petyr said. "As kind as ambition allows." Varys's tone bore frost. Tommen reached Stokeworth. "So soon you glean word?" Littlefinger unbuckled his belt, hung sword on peg. "Then news that matters travels. Cersei will hear before dusk. She will burn every crooked street to flush him out. She will try." Petyr poured fresh wine. "But half her wildfire now sits where mine own seals guard it. I doubt she even knows." Varys stepped closer. "Have a care, Petyr. Your hunger gapes. The realm may choke on it." Littlefinger toasted the spider. "Then we teach it to swallow." Varys' eyes narrowed. He realized then that for all his webs, he had never glimpsed the true depths of Petyr Baelish, only the surface glimmer. Beneath lay trenches darker than blackwater mud, and creatures swimming there wore smiles made of knives. On dragonstone winds whipped black banners bearing the fiery heart of Stannis Baratheon. In the Stone Drum's drafty audience hall, the new king read raven scrolls by flickering torch, and snorted. "Mercy, Prince, pa. Bastard whelp." He tossed the scroll into a brazier. "Crown claimed split thrice over, now perhaps a fourth." Davos Seaworth stepped from the shadows. "The younger boy garners hearts. Let him have hearts. I want thrones." Stannis jabbed finger at a painted table. "King's Landing reeks of weakness. If lions war amongst themselves, the gates will swing open." Melisandre glided from behind a column. Scarlet silk sign. "The red god foretells shadows devouring lions. A green eye and a pale eye. One quenched by righteous flame, the other by grief. Yet a new cub rises, cloaked in dew. Cub or no, the Lord of Light favors only one champion. Thou." Stannis' jaw set like iron. "I will not share my claim with children bred in incest." He looked to Davos. "Prepare the fleet. We sail at once." "Storm season lashes Blackwater," Davos cautioned. "Better to wait for calmer tides." Stannis' lips pursed. "Every day we wait. Renly plucks roses, Tommen gathers doves, Joffrey spreads rot. I will be no gardener, no dovekeeper, no vulture. I will be king." His fist slammed the table. Melisandre smiled, eyes reflecting torch flame. "Then light guides you." "Oh." Davos bowed. Inside, he prayed those lights were not pyres that might consume them all. At Hollow Hill, torches burned inside limestone caves carved by bygone kings. Robb Stark arrived beneath banners of the direwolf and trout, and was welcomed by Thoros, who smelled of horse and smoke. He led Robb, Catelyn, Brynden, and 5 picked guards through twisting passages until they emerged into a wide cavern, lit by braziers. There waited Lords Galt, Stokeworth, and Rosby, sworn swords sheathing steel as wolves entered. Beside them stood Beric Dondarrion, once more a spectre of dust and stitches, and between them, seated upon a simple oaken chair, Tommen Baratheon. The boy rose, chain of the 7 glinting. "Lord Stark," he said, voice steady yet small. "I thank you for coming." Robb bowed, every eye watched. "Your Grace." The title tasted odd, but he had called worse men king this past year. Catelyn studied Beric, then Tommen, noting how gentle long lashes fanned cheeks, how surcoat bore no sigil, but a 7-pointed star flanked by stag and lion. "You offer peace," she said. "Define it." Lord Rosby unfurled parchment. "The Shadow Regency proposes mutual ceasefire among all northern and riverland forces currently arrayed against the crown. Prisoners exchanged in good faith. Sir Jaime for Lord Eddard and the Stark girls. Northern autonomy guaranteed under one kingdom. No revenue demanded except voluntary trade tithes at White Harbor. Additionally, a marriage pact. Prince Tommen to Arya Stark upon her 16th name day." Robb's brows soared. "Marriage pact." Tommen spoke quickly, cheeks pink. "I asked they include it. I admire Lady Arya's courage. A king needs courage near." He swallowed. "But if she refuses, I will not press." Robb forced neutrality. My sister's will is her own. Brynden strode forward, reading the clauses. And Joffrey will be offered Storm's End, Rosby said smoothly, to rule as Lord Paramount of the Stormlands under Tommen's suzerainty. Renly may retain Highgarden by marriage to Margaery, provided he renounce his crown. He cleared throat. Lord Stannis shall be acknowledged as Hand for life, with full power to purge corruption. Robb laughed, though not with mirth. You craft riddles. Stannis would sooner eat his crown than share. Renly bed roses, not thrones. Joffrey said power? Impossible. Then? Impossible today, Barrett conceded, but we sow seeds of next season. Wars settle when blood runs too high. Offer alternatives now. Extend mercy, and men weary of fighting may turn. Robb paced, Grey Wind's eyes following from cave mouth. What of Tywin Lannister? He holds River Run's siege lines. He will answer any humiliation with fire. Tywin is less certain with no heir in the capital. Littlefinger's voice drifted from shadows. He revealed himself, smiling. Imagine a letter from his beloved grandson, reduced to a mere lord, begging grandfather to support the younger king. Tywin might march on the city to install Joffrey anew, but not if we hold Tommen north under Direwolf guard. The old lion would weigh losses. Robb glared. You would make hostage of your king to stay Tywin's wrath? Steward, Petyr corrected. I would make guest of our king among honorable wolves. A year of northern snows tempers steel. Catelyn's instincts screamed trap. Yet the promise of daughters, of husband, of peace tasted sweet as mulled wine after frostbite. She looked to Tommen. The boy's eyes had tears unshed, earnest, terrified, hopeful. She remembered Bran's laughter, Rickon's tiny fists. She saw them all in Tommen's soft features. May I speak with his grace alone? The lords shifted. Beric nodded. The mother's voice should speak with the child. He herded others toward side tunnels. Robb hesitated, but Catelyn squeezed his arm. Trust me. When only they two remained, Catelyn knelt before Tommen. You risk much. He blinked rapidly. I want the realms safe. Mother once told me kings protect the weak. Now She told Joffrey that too? No, he whispered. She told Joffrey kings take what is theirs. Catelyn exhaled. Would you defy your mother? I would guide her. If she saw a realm at peace, she might rest. His lip trembled. Will you help? Catelyn took his small hand. To help, I must believe. Swear to me my daughters live. He squeezed her fingers. I swear by the seven, by the old gods, by everything. Tears blurred Catelyn's sight. Then I will carry your words to my son. But I warn you, your grace, wolves protect their own. Break this faith, and no cave will hide you. Menderal. I understand. He lifted his chin. In that moment, Catelyn glimpsed a shadow of Robert, tempered by the gentleness of a daughter. He never sired. Hope flickered fragile. Back in King's Landing, wildfire shipment mishaps torched a storehouse near Dragon Pit, green flames painting night sky emerald. Panicked smallfolk rushed walls, thinking the city under dragon attack. Bywater's men restored order, but panic gnawed trust. Rumor claimed Cersei meant to burn the city, rather than cede it to Stannis. Tyrion confronted her in the queen's apartments. You will kill us all, he spat, so that your enemies inherit ash. Cersei flung a goblet. Wine-streaked draperies. Better ash than Stannis' gallows. Better ash than Baelish's leash, you mean? He advanced. Littlefinger buys your men faster than you breed them. Joffrey is one riot away from throat slit. We need alliances, not fire. Alliance with whom? She laughed, hollow. Half the realm bows to a boy hiding behind Selzwards. The other half bends knee to brothers who want my children dead. Tyrion softened. Surrender is not the only path. Let Joffrey stand down temporarily, claim illness, name a regency of neutral lords. One of them you're choosing. And let Tommen return as ward of Stannis, hostage against treason. By time. And now. Cersei sank onto a divan, face drained. And if Joffrey refuses, then we all die sooner. Tyrion sat beside her, at least off her choice. She stared into the hearth where logs snapped. Slowly she nodded. Prepare terms. I will try. Tyrion knew trying might not save them, but the wheel turned still. 3 days after the Hollow Hill parley, Ned Stark crossed the neck under grey skies, free at last. He rode beside Great John Umber and a phalanx of Rosby guards now sworn to Robb. His bones ached, but winter wind tasted like home. When ravens brought word of Robb's negotiations, he felt pride bloom, his son forging peace where older lords thirsted for glory. At dusk they reached Moat Cailin, finding the drafty towers manned by crannogmen bearing reeds painted green. Howland Reed himself greeted Ned at the causeway, eyes bright with tears. Too long, Lord Stark. Too long. Ned clasped his friend. Yet the realm still bleeds. Will your people stand if Stannis marches north? The neck will choke invaders. Howland vowed. But I pray we choke no more sons. If this Mercy King holds, perhaps our spears may become fishing poles once more. Ned looked out over night tide, half frozen, reflecting star-pierced heavens. For the first time in years, he felt a ghost of peace fill his lungs. In Stokeworth's Ravenry, a fat, glossy bird preened on the highest perch. A slim boy in stable leathers crept in, removed a hidden message tube, inserted a fresh scroll, and let the bird fly. The boy then descended a narrow stair to a cellar where a lean man awaited, eyes blue as frost, hair the pale blonde of House Clegane's bastard branch. The lean man unrolled the tube's contents. 3 lines only, Prince secured. Wolves negotiata. Band. Delay Stannis. 1 moon darty. Coins en route. He smiled, closing fingers round the parchment until it crumpled. The mockingbird pays. Above, the sky deepened indigo. Another piece moved across the unseen board. At Renly's encampment outside Bitterbridge, Lady Margaery Tyrell walked petal-strewn lanes between silken pavilions as singers practiced ballads praising a king she might wed. Her grandmother, the Queen of Thorns, marched at her elbow. "Did you rid the Rosby oath?" Olenna asked. "I did." Margaery's green eyes gleamed. If Tommen pacifies lords, Renly might accept co-regency. Olenna snorted. Co-anything with my nephew is like sharing a tart with a goat. Still, goats climb mountains while lions laze. She plucked a rose. We plant ourselves in whichever garden promises bloom. If Tommen thrives, we prune the rest. Nenawe. Margaery nodded. Overhead, a kestrel wheeled, screeching. Beyond the confines of pageantry, men died beneath banners none of these lords yet chose. Dragons, fires, wolves, shadows. She wondered how many roads to power were paved with children's bones, and whether hers would differ. On the wall, Maester Aemon listened to a messenger read news of 4 kings, and maybe 5. He sighed, blindness hiding tears. When next Raven arrives, he whispered, "Send reply, winter gathers and all crowns melt." The messenger frowned, but Aemon only smiled, hearing distant storms. In King's Landing, Sansa inaugurated the first charity kitchen in Flea Bottom's shabbiest alley. Gold cloaks ringed the courtyard. Uneasy, she ladled barley stew into chipped bowls, remembering Winterfell's harvest feasts. The small folk approached warily, yet when she smiled they knelt and murmured thanks. One wrinkled woman pressed a wilted daisy into Sansa's palm. "Mercy's flower," she called it. Tears stung Sansa's eyes. She served till dusk. Heart bruised yet swelling. Hope? Sometimes taste like broth. When she returned to the holdfast, Tyrion waited. "You did well," he said. "I only fed them." "You planted seeds of sanity," he replied. "We shall see if they grow." Night settled thick over every camp and castle, over Blackwater Glimmer, over Storm's End's looming towers, over Dragonstone's jagged cliffs, over Winterfell's rebuilding walls. Torches flickered in windows like scattered fireflies across a dark map. Body. In Littlefinger's solar, Pettier bent over parchment, quill rasping. Each line he wrote tethered someone to debt. A Stormlander knight, a Myrish banker, a brave OC sea captain, a Dornish smuggler, every signature a stitch, pulling tighter a shroud he meant to wrap around the 7 kingdoms. He paused, gaze drifting to the night beyond his balcony, fragrant with river mist. Somewhere, a child king dreamed of peace. Somewhere, a vengeful queen cradled wildfire. Somewhere a spider spun regrets. Pettier dipped quill again. Chaos, he murmured, is the only ladder. His door creaked. A hooded shape slipped inside, silent as breath. Pettier's hand drifted toward the hidden stiletto under scroll racks. The intruder spoke in a voice that chilled like deep water. My lord Baelish, the faceless god receives your tithe. Pettier's pulse leapt. I pay no tithes. Tonight you will. Steel flashed, candlelight winked off polished edge. Littlefinger calculated angles, exits, the guards 2 halls away. He smiled. And what does your god value for my life? Only a name. Then, name it. Varys. The coin dropped from Pettier's fingers, striking floor like doom's bell. At first light, ravens erupted from every rookery. One to Winterfell bearing Ned's safe arrival. One from Stokeworth announcing Tommen en route north with Wolfguard. One from King's Landing pleading supplies. One from Dragonstone declaring fleet movements. One from Bitterbridge offering rose-scented alliances. Threads knotted, frayed, tightened, tore, all at once. Above them all, cold winds rose from the lands of always winter, carrying snows earlier than even maesters dared predict. If any in the south looked north long enough, they might have seen dawnlight shimmer. Strangely on gray clouds, as though something vast and white stirred beneath. But the south looked inward, as always, and the game spun on. 10 leagues south of Harrenhal, Tywin Lannister's outriders found a charred cart abandoned on the road, its driver nailed to an upright beam beside, scroll strapped to chest. Tywin dismounted, ripped the parchment free. A stag drawn in gold ink crowned the top. Beneath, words flowed. The shadow Regency rides. Follow, and your grandchildren's coffers will run red as Castamir's halls. Swear to mercy, and the lion may yet lie with the lamb. Tywin crushed the scroll. Behind him, the rumble of approaching wagons bore supplies meant for siege. He turned to Sir Adam Marbrand. Double pace. We take King's Landing before mercy turns heads. As they spurred onward, distant thunder cracked. The first volley of winter hail hammering barren fields. Under the crypts of Winterfell, Bran Stark listened to the wind howl through arrow slits high above. In dreams he saw a throne of snow. Saw a boy with a cat's smile holding a crown of reeds. Saw a shadow loom behind him with knives for feathers. He woke shaking. Summer nuzzled his face until calm returned. In the dark he whispered to the walls, "Tell Robb the king's shadow is wrong." The stones only sighed. The next afternoon, Robb Stark convened his captains in a field strewn with fallen leaves, scented pine. Tommen stood at his right, cheeks flushed from cold. "My bannerman," Robb began. "The Mercy King seeks passage to Winterfell until peace forged. We will grant it. Any who refuse may ride south with their quarrel." "Memem-chi." Murmurs swept the circle. Greyjohn opened his broad mouth, but Catelyn laid a hand on his arm. Sir Edmure nodded grudgingly. The banners of Mormont, Glover, Karstark wavered but remained. Only Lord Bolton's narrow eyes betrayed calculation. "A guest under northern roof invokes ancient law," he said softly. "But laws have teeth, whose fangs pierce if the guest brings war to our doors." "Then we bear ours," Robb answered. Bolton bowed, placid. "It is settled," Catelyn declared. Her voice rang like winter's steel. At that same moment, inside a tent marked by crossed arrows, Lady Mage Mormont handed Arya Stark a bundle of leather jerkins and rough-spun leggings. "Tommen's escort passes near Acornwater soon. If you wish to ride unseen, dress as the cub you once were." Arya's eyes glittered. You think I'll marry him? Your brother Mage chuckled. But cubs have teeth too. Arya grinned, slipping into the clothes. Within King's Landing, Tyrion stood atop the ramparts watching sails gather on the horizon like black teeth. Stannis' fleet. He heard bootsteps. Varys. The eunuch's face was ashen. The gold cloak split, he said. My water holds 2/3. The rest drift to Littlefinger's coin. Tyrion nodded. I have wildfire ready. Chain for the harbor mouth ordered. Yet the city starves. And Cersei, prying at every door for her missing child. He sighed. Madness closes in. Varys laid a hand on the dwarf's shoulder. Rare comfort. Remember, the smallest man can cast a long shadow. Tyrion barked dark laughter. Only when fire's at his back. His gaze fixed on the ships. Let's see if shadows can burn. In Stokeworth, Beric prepared mounts. A raven perched on his sleeve bearing Robb's seal. Safe passage granted. He smiled, turning to the prince. We ride at dusk. The road north is long but friendly. Tommen nodded, determination in his young face. I will see winter and return with spring. As riders saddled, the lean blond man stood on a balcony, narrow eyes tracking every move. He fingered the hidden crossbow beneath cloak, awaiting the angle that would end Baelish's ransom dream. But his aim fixed not on Tommen. His quarry rode with Thoros, the drunk red priest whose miracles meddled with death, owed to the many-faced god. The assassin would claim that debt tonight. Below, horses stamped, nerves taut. Above, storm clouds rolled. At dusk, lightning split skies as the column filed through Stokeworth's gate. First came outlaw archers, then Beric and Tommen, followed by Thoros swaying in saddle. The assassin moved through servants, crossbow concealed in hay cart. At the grove edge he stopped, sighted. A flick of leather, a thrum, the bolt flew. Yet as it sailed, lightning cracked again, blinding white. Thoros' mount reared. The bolt zipped where his throat had been, embedding in elm bark. The column erupted. Beric wheeled, sword flashing, yet the assassin melted into gloom, leaping hedge wall to a ready mare. Hooves hammered away. Beric cursed but held Tommen close. No chase. The prince first. That night, their camp smoked with nervous fires. Tommen sat by Beric while Thoros inspected scorch mark on his surcoat. Lord of Light, the priest muttered. Perhaps he favors me still. He drank heavily. Beric tossed extra guards on watch. In his tent, he unrolled the assassin's discarded quiver. Each bolt tip bore an etched symbol, faceless coin. He ground teeth. Shadows breed shadows. He whispered. Outside, snowflakes began again, thicker, swirling around flames. Pettier Baelish discovered the failed attempt by Raven before dawn. He read the report, expression unreadable, then burned it unscented. He penned new orders. Accelerate movement, alternate route through Maidenpool swamps, triple the bounty on Thoros' head. He paused, weighing coin, then added Varys' name to the bounty ledger. Not for death, but capture. Knowledge, after all, was a blade sharper than any assassin's quarrel. He sealed the scroll, poured himself wine, and at last permitted a smile. Thin, satisfied, terrible. Far beyond the narrowing circles of war, in Qarth's shadowed docks, a silver-haired queen oversaw loading of a single ship. Her dragons perched along the mast, wings warming in desert dawn. A Qarthine merchant bowed as he presented her with fresh scrolls of Westerosi turmoil. 4 kings, 5. A boy of mercy. Daenerys Targaryen traced Tommen's name with hopeful finger. A gentle king, she murmured, then remembered her brother's gentleness, the fire that ended it. She tucked the parchment beneath dragon wing. We sail at noon. In the eyrie atop Pike, Balon Greyjoy heard of lions at civil war, and wolves courting cub kings. He leaned into salt wind and smiled as his banner snapped. Let them feast on each other. We take what is ours. He summoned his captains. Raid the neck while northerners tarry south. The sea would have its due. Snow blanketed the neck that same night, muffling every hoof. Ned Stark shivered in his furs as torchlight flickered along causeway. He felt ghosts in every gust. The children yet lost, the dead he failed to save. But he also felt rising hope. Frail, yes, but real. When he looked skyward, flakes melted against lashes, and he thought of Tommen, of Robb, of Caitlin forging fragile peace. Could winter, herald of hardship, also cleanse fire-fed wounds? A lone direwolf howl answered, distant yet strong, carrying across swamps like a vow. Ned pressed heel to his horse. Home, he whispered. Sunrise painted the realm gold strained through ice haze. From Dragonstone's ramparts, watchers spied Tyrell sails turning north, reneging on Renly. From Harrenhal scouts returned with news of Toim's forced march east. From Winterfell ravens declared a mercy king under direwolf guard. From the Wall Black brothers saw the first giant tracks in half a century beating southward in drifts waist deep. Each report joined countless others in Maester's ledgers, in Lord's nightmares, in smallfolk prayers. And woven through them all like silver thread ran whispers of two men. One a spider who served a dream of peace, the other a mockingbird who served only his reflection. Where their webs overlapped trembled the fate of kings. And above their fragile threads, winter kept falling, silent and inexorable, blanketing fields, forests, cities, and corpses alike, erasing banners, soothing flames, burying secrets beneath white that would not melt until the realm remembered what truly mattered, when crowns rusted in gold ran dry. For now, though, men still fought. Crows still feasted. Bells still rang. And somewhere in a snow-dusted clearing, a boy with lion's blood and a heart of mercy lifted his face to the cold, imagining a dawn when the only banners were children's kites, and the only sounds were laughter and the crunch of fresh-fallen snow, beneath small boots racing to all. Could rule? Yai, ka, ya. Night swallowed the wolf's wood in waves of ink and silver as Beric's column pressed northward, breath gusting from man and horse alike, like miniature storms. Tommen rode near the center, hood drawn. His small hands hidden in bare fur mitts Mage Mormont had thrust upon him at dawn. The snow under hoof crackled like thin glass, and each crunch seemed to echo with portents. The forlorn roar of giants rumored beyond the wall, the metallic rasp of Tywin's ranks marshalling in the riverlands, the thunder of Stannis galleys plowing a black sea toward King's Landing. Beric reined alongside Thoros, who was muttering prayers into a wineskin. The boy grows weary, the Lightning Lord said. If we push for Deepwood Moat tonight, the Mormonts can spare beds. Thoros swigged, wiped red-gold mustache, and peered back at Tommen bobbing between two Greenbergs. Best push, aye. Snow worsens come dark. Your wounds won't thank frost. He tapped the wineskin. But neither will mine. They turned to give the order, and caught the flutter of black wings. A raven circled overhead, croaking the name of no one living. It spiraled down to land on Tommen's saddle horn, talons scratching worn leather, and fixed him with a fever-bright eye. The prince gasped, half fascinated, half fearful. Small claws clacked. A message tube dangled from its leg. Beric's gloved fingers unhitched the capsule. Inside lay a twist of parchment, ink still wet enough to sheen. 3 words only: turn due west. No seal, no sigil. Another snare? Thoros ventured, voice gruff. Or a warning, Beric murmured. Snowflakes thickened around them, drifting like motes in a torchlit hall. If we keep on the King's Road, we're easy quarry. He urged his mount abreast of Tommen's. Your Grace, there's choice ahead. Wolves paved safety one way, but unseen friends may beckon another. And now. Tommen's cheeks were mottled rose from wind. He thought a long moment, then nodded. We follow the raven. His breath plumed. A king must trust the realm that trusts him. Beric signaled. The column veered west, crunching through untrodden drifts toward the whispering pines. 20 leagues south, Arya Stark crept along the outer ring of Seaguard's siege ditch under a bruise-purple sky. She wore the boiled leather jerkin Mage Mormont had gifted, hair hacked to a crow's nest. Ahead, sentries of House Mallister manned the rampart, but Arya's gaze locked on a different target, a dun mare tethered by the smithy, the very kind of horse that might outrun rumors. Gendry crouched beside her, hammer tucked through belt. "You sure about this, Aerie?" Lord Rob's orders were to wait. "Orders for knights," Arya whispered. "I'll not stand idle while Mother parleyed my betrothal." She mimed vomiting. "I ride to meet this Mercy Prince myself." Gendry scratched his jaw. "Then I'll shoe your horse before you leave, else it goes lame." A faint smile curved her wind-chapped lips. "Doe, and hurry. We steal out past first bell." Neither noticed the hooded figure eavesdropping behind a tangle of frost-rimmed barrels, eyes pale as winter moonrise. In King's Landing, the iron throne chamber glittered with fresh candlelight, yet half the torches guttered black, quenched by draughts sneaking through arrow slits. Tyrion stood alone before the monstrous seat, hands clasped behind back. The clatter of armored feet broke silence as Sir Jacelyn Bywater entered at quick march. "The chain across the Blackwater is forged," Bywater reported. "Smiths fasten final links this very hour. But we lost 3 more wagons to riot during night patrol." "And no." Tyrion's shoulders sagged beneath invisible weight. "Bread buys loyalty longer than iron. And the Queen buys neither." Bywater's eyes flicked to the throne. "Lannisters always pay their debts, they say. Only when debt costs fewer dragons than denial." Tyrion cracked a bitter grin. "Tell your men double watches. Remind them a sellsword may switch cloaks rather than die for crown." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "And if Valar commands you yield the gates, refuse until you hear my own words." Bywater saluted, cloak swirling, and departed. Tyrion gazed up at the throne's twisted spines, wondering how many more dead children would temper those blades before dawn of peace. Across the reach, Renly Baratheon's grand pavilion blazed like a comet fallen among winter-bleached fields. Inside, Queen Margaery rehearsed diplomacy before a gilt mirror, rehearsing smiles that hinted at alliance, yet betrayed no allegiance. Her grandmother perched on a padded stool, needles clicking through scarlet wool. "Letters from Highgarden," Olenna intoned. "Stannis ships in the gullet, Tywin hurries to the capital, and your dear Tommen has melted Robb Stark's heart to pudding." She clicked tongue. "If we wait, roses wilt while wolves and doves divide the realm." Margaery adjusted a pearl comb. "Then, we root ourselves nearer sun." Renly strode in, wearing green enamel brigandine and a jaunty grin. "Good news, my love. Lady Stark seeks audience under flag of truce." Olenna's eyes sharpened. "Send treats and texts of courtesy, but keep her at arm's length. A wolf's mercy is never without fangs." "No." Renly lifted an eyebrow. "Coming from a rose's thorn?" Margaery touched his sleeve. "Invite her at sunrise. Offer safe conduct. If Tommen's star rises, we must shine upon him, or eclipse him entirely." Outside Riverrun, Tywin Lannister's war council buzzed within a striped campaign tent, reeking of horse and tallow. Ravens flapped in a wicker cage beside his chair. Crimson wax glistened on 24 scrolls, all bearing the same message: withdraw to Harrenhal. King orders defense of capital. Kevin watched his brother read them without expression. "The boy thinks himself Hannibal," Tywin finally said, voice like dry gravel. "He commands me abandon the field." He flicked parchment aside. Cersei's whisper, "No Baelishes." Sir Adam Marbrand paced, mail chiming. "If we march south, we abandon our grip on the trident." "We march." Tywin's glare froze dissent. "But not to serve a brat or mockingbird. My horse heads to Blackwater to seize the boy and queen alike. Once I have them, shadow regencies crumble." A feral smile tugged at iron lips. "And if the city must burn to cleanse these webs, so be it." Across the tent, Tyrion's latest raven sat unopened. Storm-lashed Dragonstone's seaward wall, white hair of wave spray whipping high. On the windwalk, Stannis Baratheon oversaw preparations, oilskin cloak snapping. jaw clenched. Davos approached, lantern swaying. "Fleet ready, your grace," the Knight of Onions reported. "But Red Priestess insists the storm is omen." Stannis' blue eyes narrowed. "Omen or no, we sail. Every hour lost fattens lion's purse." "Men?" "Your grace, the free city's rumor Tyrells will join Tommen." Davos lowered his voice. "If roses merge with wolves, they but a kingdom larger than ours. Better treat while terms favorable." Stannis drew Lightbringer half from scabbard. The blade seemed to pulse, though whether by magic or reflected lightning Davos could not tell. "I do not treat with thieves of my birthright." He shoved the sword home. "And if a boy wears crown of straw, I shall show him fire." Lightning forks sea and sky behind him, throwing his silhouette in stark white. Davos thought of the boy Tommen, of charred rebels at Storm's End decades ago, and felt dread taste iron on his tongue. Far north, on the edge of the haunted forest, the Night's Watch ranging party broke camp beneath ancient weirwoods bleeding sap like half-forgotten wounds. Samwell Tarly shivered, quill scratching a parchment log. White shadows spotted near the milkwater, he noted. Giants moving south. Lord Commander Jorah Mormont loomed over his shoulder. Giants follow herds. If herds flee, winter's teeth near. He exhaled steam. And still, the Seven Kingdoms squabble like gulls over guts. Sam glanced at the horizon where Aurora shimmered. "Do we warn them again?" "Let ravens fly till quills break," Mormont growled. "Though I doubt they read." Back in the Wolfswood, Beric's detour carried them to a clearing walled by sentinel pines whose trunks bore carved faces, old gods grimacing in moonlit frost. There, a cloaked ranger stepped from behind a trunk. No ordinary ranger, but a woman in mottled gray and white, eyes green as deep water. Osha, the spearwife, held an obsidian-tipped spear loosely. "Boy King," she greeted. "The wolves bid you shelter." Behind her, a dozen direwolves melted from the dark. No, not direwolves, but large, shaggy northern hounds with streaks of frost along muzzles. Yet one beast truly was dire. Gray wind, hackles raised, amber eyes fixed on Tommen with alien judgment. And astride him, silent as dawn mist, sat Bran Stark. Tommen dismounted, snow squealing under boots. He bowed, uncertain. Bran inclined his head. "Robb said to guide you." His voice carried an echo, of wind through heart trees, of children buried in centuries. "There is quicker path through the wolf's den." Beric studied Bran's vacant stare, realizing the boy's eyes focused somewhere beyond mortal sight. "Lead then, young Stark." They moved through evergreen shadows, gray wind gliding ahead, Tommen walking beside Bran's sled as two Mormont spearwives hauled it. All felt dreamlike. White breath, white ground, black branches. Bran spoke without turning. "I saw fires in the south, a lion of gold drowning beneath green wave, a mockingbird pecking out a spider's eyes, a boy in bronze armor weeping." Tommen stiffened. "Is that me?" "Perhaps." Bran's voice was distant. Paths shift when feet touch snow. The march ended at a half-sunken watchtower over a frozen creek. Within, Mormont warriors shared stew and ale, welcoming Tommen with wary nods. But Beric's mind lingered on Bran's riddles, and what monstrous future might devour their fragile hope. South of Maidenpool, the faceless assassin who had failed on Thoros' life knelt nude before a weeping willow, knife balanced on palms. Moonlit ripples lapped ankles. He whispered the litany of namelessness, then pressed the blade to his cheek, carving a line so thin no blood escaped. The many-faced god demanded payment for debt. Next attempt would not fail. Atop the wall, Jon Snow leaned on a frost-crusted merlin. Ghost sniffed the wind, growled low. "Something hunts," Jon murmured. He scanned the tree line where pale shapes skittered. Too many shadows tonight. Dolorous Ed joined him, cloak pulled tight. "Heard the realm's got more kings than crabs in the narrow sea now. Maybe one will remember us." Jon's eyes stayed north. "Kings come and go. Winter doesn't." Thou. 5 days slid past like knives on whetstone. Snow deepened, rumors deeper still. Tywin's banner vanished from the trident, spurring tales of lions slinking south. Shattered remnants of Joffrey's city watch deserted, selling helms for crusts of bread. Renly's scouts glimpsed wildfire green against night horizon and warned of Cersei's last resort. In King's Landing the Hound escorted Sansa to the second charity kitchen, where hungry thousands queued. Mid-service a gaunt girl collapsed at Sansa's feet, eyes glazed. Healing sisters rushed, but death took the child before a prayer could finish. Sansa wept openly. The Hound laid a heavy hand on her shoulder, murmuring something none heard. That night songs rose in Flea Bottom praising Lady Mercy, and Cersei felt power slipping like wine through broken goblet stem. In her chambers she smashed mirrors, screamed at shadows, and swore to raise the city before another soul sang her younger son's name. Deep within the crypts below Beller's Sept, Varys traced lines on a dust-caked map. Secret tunnels, caches of wildfire, forgotten smuggler wells. Footsteps echoed. Pettier Baelish descended, lantern raised. Plotting exodus? He drawled. Perhaps. Varys folded map, dot shot. Your knives grow restless. Knives ensure order. A pity your webs tangle them. Pettier smiled thinly. The faceless man failed. Next blade strikes closer. Varys' eyes flashed. You would butcher a prince's protector to speed your ladder? Protector, prop, words blur. Stability matters, and Tommen alone is not enough. You stand between me and culmination. Baelish stepped nearer. Join me, Spider. Together we crown peace. Never. Peace perched upon a pyre. Varys shook his head. I serve realm, not ambition. Baelish's smile died. Then realm buries you with its doubts. He turned, cloak whispering like raven wings. Varys exhaled shakily. Above, faint rumble like distant thunder shook dust from vaulted ceiling. The first test detonation Cersei ordered at the dragon pit to gauge wildfire stock. Time dwindled. In a snow-drowned courtyard outside Deepwood Motte, Tommen sparred with Lady Lyanna Mormont, the child as fierce as any grown soldier, wooden sword whipping like gale. She disarmed him thrice before Beric called halt. Tommen laughed through bruise and snow-clumped hair, exhilarated by honest defeat. Lyanna clapped his shoulder. Not bad, cub. Later, by a hearth, Tommen confided to Beric, I feel worth something here. Not a pawn. Beric stirred embers. Kings are pieces until they move themselves. Remember that. A horn sounded beyond palisade. Robb Stark's outriders arrived, banners limp with frost, but hearts bright. Catelyn dismounted in furs dusted white, eyes shining at sight of Tommen safe. Robb embraced Beric, then knelt before the prince. Winterfell offers roof and guest right, he declared. Come under my protection, until realm settles its storms. Tommen placed small hand on Robb's arm. I accept, and hope storms blow quick. Overhead, snow paused, and brief sunlight painted the company golden. For a heartbeat, all dreamed of peace. That same moment, on a hill overlooking King's Landing, Tywin's vanguard unfurled its crimson and gold. Below, Blackwater Bay churned under slate clouds where Stannis warships cut toward the mouth. Between Lion and Stag, the capital lay like a stag in a trap, wildfire ghosts dancing beneath its streets. In Maegor's Holdfast, Tyrion counted barrels, eyed the distant sails, and wondered if either army meant to spare the small folk. He drafted orders to Bronn to seize the Alchemists' Guild Hall, but a messenger knocked, breathless. The Queen clears the tunnels, Lord. Orders all inner gates barred. She moves stockpiles. Tyrion felt ice crawl spineward. Where? The Sept Baelor, some say. He closed his eyes. Cersei had chosen holy fire. At dusk, on the leaf-strewn slope above Seaguard Road, Arya vaulted into her stolen mare's saddle, Gendry at her side atop a shaggy gelding of uncertain temper. They trotted toward the wolfshed banners marking Robb's trail. Yet before they cleared the wood line, the pale-eyed eavesdropper emerged. Crossbow leveled. Only need the girl, he rasped. Boy Smith may ride on. Gendry slid from saddle. hammer in hand. Leave now. The assassin smiled. Death wears many faces. Tonight it borrows yours. He loosed bolt. Gendry swung hammer, knocking arrow aside. Arya spurred her mare. Charging. Steel flashed. The assassin rolled beneath hooves, sprang, slashed at reins. Mare reared. Arya tumbled, landed grazing barley stubble. Gendry roared, hammer crashing down. Assassin dodged, blade slicing Gendry's forearm. Blood spattered snow. Arya grappled for needle, but weapon lost in fall. Frost-numbed fingers found a rock instead. She hurled it. Stone struck assassin's temple. He staggered. Gendry's hammer found ribs with sick crunch. Yet killer's knife flicked up, jabbed Gendry's thigh, artery splaying crimson. Gendry gasped. Arya shrieked fury, dove for hammer, hefted it overhead, and brought it down on assassin's skull. Bone cracked. Faceless killer collapsed, eyes staring. Arya knelt by Gendry, hands useless on pulsing wound. Snow crimsoned. Stay, stay, she sobbed. He smiled faintly. Always the stubborn wolf. Breath left him in white plume. Tears froze on Arya's lashes. She rose, seized needle from drift, and faced the dead man. Removing his hood revealed no face at all. Features smooth like river-worn stone. Eyes milky blank. Fear slithered. She grabbed Gendry's hammer and rode east, leading blood-spotted gelding. Mind-forging vow of vengeance, hot enough to melt any mask. The following dawn, ravens soared from Deepwood Moat. One bore Robb's seal, bound for King's Road posts, proclaiming guest right for King Tommen under northern protection, and inviting neutral lords to a council at Moat Cailin. Another carried Beric's script to Varys. Cub safe. North stirs. Next move yours. In King's Landing, Varys read the note, closed eyes. Across city, Baelish received copy via whisper chain. He smiled, dipped quill. Release lions upon wolves. Gold flows for every torch lit. Tywin's host reached the capital's south gate at sunset, only to find it barred. On ramparts, Lannister red mingled with gold cloaks and ragged sellswords, whose allegiance none could read. Trumpets blared, a herald shouted. Lord of Casterly Rock commands entry in the king's name. No response. Instead, flames flickered within, unnatural green. Tywin's gaze steeled. They dared deny me. He turned to Kevan. Prepare rams. If gate falls, we secure the queen and Joffrey. But thunder of hooves cut him off. A scout rode breathless. Stag sails anchor. Stannis lands at the mouth behind us. Mentor wire. Tywin's jaw clenched. Then we fight lions atop staghorns. On Blackwater, metal screeched as chain rose, trapping Stannis' lead galleys. The first wildfire cask exploded, Viridian's sun blooming, consuming hulls and men alike. Tyrion watched from Mudgate parapet, taste of ash thick. Yet when he turned, he saw torches ascending the hill of Rhaenys, toward the sept where Cersei sequestered her last pyromancers. He sprinted downstairs, bronze helm clattering, heart hammering like siege drum. In a frost-rimmed courtyard of Winterfell, Ned Stark embraced Bran, weeping openly to hold living son again. Grey wind circled, sniffing. Word of Tommen's refuge spread. Small fires flaring hope. But Maester Luwin delivered tidings that chilled all warmth. Ravens spoke of wildfire seas around King's Landing, Tywin at gates, Stannis upon waves. Ned gathered Robb, Catelyn, Beric beneath stone arch. If south burns, smoke veils our efforts. We must seize moment, call banners to douse flames with treaties before ashes blow north. Robb nodded grimly. I ride at dawn with Beric and Tommen to Moat Cailin council. Catelyn laid palm on hilt of dagger. And if treaties fail, then we guard this boy with every sword in the north, Ned answered, eyes flint. Tommen stepped forward, voice trembling yet firm. If fire swallows my family, I will not run. I will wear crown of snow and do right by those who bled. Silence held. Then Ned knelt, offering the boy the ancient bronze ring of Winterfell's old kings. For luck. Tommen slipped it on thumb too large, It slid to smaller finger. The circle gleamed like dawn on frosted branch. Dawn broke over King's Landing with screams. Tywin's rams battered the Lion Gate, even as Stannis' vanguard poured across charred quays. Wildfire still raged offshore, painting clouds sickly emerald. Inside the city, Tyrion led a sortie of mountain clans and gold cloaks, crashing through Flea Bottom to clear rioters before they ignited more alchemist caches. At Maegor's Holdfast, Cersei stood before Tommen's empty chamber, crown askew, gown torn. Her youngest gone, her eldest at ramparts inflamed by battle blood. She felt walls shrinking. Grand Maester Pycelle panted, "Your Grace, wildfire stores beneath the sept primed. One spark." "Let it," she hissed. Yet in her eyes flickered doubt. Was Tommen alive? Would she roast him from afar? Her grip slackened. "Take me to the crypt." She descended stairwells with torchbearer, lancel trailing. Beneath Beeler's marble, alchemists chanted volatile rites. Emerald light lit vaulted stone. Cersei paused, tears streaking sootmuck. She saw future, throne of silent skulls, and choked. "Stop," she whispered. None heard. Suddenly a crossbow bolt thudded into nearest cask. Pyromancer shrieked. Others scrambled. Bolt traced back to balcony where Sandor Clegane loomed, visor up, eyes blazing. "No fire," he growled. "No more children roasted." He drew bow again. "Back away, Pyrrhus." Cersei staggered. "Hound, obey your queen." "I obey the little bird's tears." Another bolt flew, bursting a shelf of parchment, showering sparks harmless on stone. Alchemists fled. Clegane stalked forward, seized torch from Lancel, snuffed it in puddle. Not today. In corridor, Tyrion arrived breathless, sword slick with blood. He took in scene. Wildfire vats, trembling queen, defiant hound, and felt knees nearly buckle. "Seven, save us," he whispered. Above, bells clanged. Lion Gate breached. Outside, Tywin's vanguard surged through, meeting Joffrey's guard. Lannister fought Lannister as confusion reigned. Into the chaos rode a column of stag-sigilled heavy horse. Stannis men exploiting breach to cut south-north corridor. Tywin spurred forward, standard streaming. "Hold the gate!" Yet horns blared anew from the river. Sails green and gold. The Tyrell fleet, Renly at helm, answering Margaery's urgent counsel to seize moment. Roses blossomed over flame-scorched bay. 3 armies converged. Inside Beller's sept, Cersei fled upward through spiral. Tyrion, Sandor at side, hauled casks into oubliette pits, doused fuses. "If city survives," Tyrion muttered, "it'll be by whim of drunk gods." Sandor barked mirthless laugh. "Then pour them a drink." North of Moat Cailin, council convened under great pine. Lords Karstark, Mormont, Glover. Ironborn envoys with grudging truce. Wildling ambassadors escorted by Osha. And across table, envoys of House Tyrell. Brother Garland and Maester Tarly, bearing bread and salt. Robb opened. "Realm burns. We offer King of Mercy. Shielded by North's honor. Join us, we forge confederation free of old feuds." Garland studied Tommen, who wore Ned's ring and cloak of snow rabbit. "If we kneel, what of Renly's claim?" "Renly may sit small council," Tommen answered, voice steady. "He wields people's love. Let him guide festivals, markets, gifts he enjoys." "Them?" Maester Tarly, old hawkish, asked. "And Highgarden's debts?" "Forgiven," Tommen said. "A realm starved of mercy will pay no harvest." Murmurs rippled. Then pounding hooves approached. Arya Stark burst into clearing, splattered, eyes storm-wild. She held out a scrap of the assassin's face. "They hunt us," she spat. "I want in." Tommen stepped forward, grief softening gaze at her blood-streaked tunic. "You have vengeance." He sheathed small dagger, offered hilt to her. "Take it. Sit with my counsel." Arya's glare melted fractionally. She accepted blade. Across table, lords exchanged looks. Wolf wed to stag by oath deeper than marriage. Garland Tyrell rose, bowed. High Garden accepts. Others followed, one by one, until only the Ironborn hesitated. The Greyjoy's envoy scanned faces, shrugged. Salt and snow seldom blend, but better than fire. The Iron Isles concur. Council sealed by shared ale, cheers echoing through pines. Winter wind carried new hope, thin, yet living. In King's Landing dusk bled into night. Cersei, cornered in Red Keep Tower, heard horns cease. She crept to terrace. Below, armies mingled in uneasy ceasefire as Renly's envoys brokered truce, demanding council to judge succession. Tywin held walls near gate, Stannis the harbor, Renly South Ron Hill. Joffrey nowhere. Flowed with kettle-black escort once slaughter started. Cersei's world tilted. She sagged, gripping parapet. In narrow yard, Tyrion spoke with Varys, Bywater, and even Davos Seaworth under white flag. Green flame still flickered on river, but no new casks burst. Spider saw Queen above, their gazes locking. He bowed. She turned away, tears unshed. She knew then the Game of Thrones had slipped from her grasp, carried north on wings of ravens and mercy. Beyond wall, cold deeper than death, swept south. First whites reached abandoned villages at Queen's Crown, eyes blue suns. Giants followed, urging mammoths across narrowing rivers. Winter marched, while men disputed crowns. At Castle Black, Jon Snow read fresh raven. Council at Moat Cailin names Tommen guardian of the realm. Peace possible. He lowered parchment. Good, he muttered. Then they'll have strength to stand against what comes. Ghost howled. Night answered. The following moon saw envoys from 3 kings ride under truce to Winterfell, where Ned Stark presided over largest council since Aegon's conquest. Tyrells, Martells, Greyjoys, Riverlords, even free folk voices, all sat at tables arranged in circle, no one lord at head. They spoke of grain and trade, of titles and justice, of walls and winters. And at heart of circle, a boy of 10 wore a simple bronze ring, and listened more than he spoke. When final parchment signed, Tommen stood. I will not claim iron throne of blades. I will rule from halls, where hearth is never empty, where laws carved from ice keep men honest. He turned to Robb. Lend me Winterfell until new capital raised at Moat Cailin. Center of realm newborn. Robb smiled ruefully. So long as you replace every roof you melt, come spring. Laughter broke tension. Arya rolled eyes but smiled, tugging new steel chain at waist. Warden of the Paths, a title freshly minted. Far away, Littlefinger read dispatch. Face unreadable. Yet a flicker of admiration surfaced. The spider and cub had woven tapestry Hyde not foreseen. But where webs thrived, mockingbirds feasted. He penned fresh schemes, favoring none but chaos itself. Varys, in contrast, exhaled relief inside northern solar. Peace fragile, yes, but living, enough to weather winter's roar. And winter roared. Snow draped the realm in blessings and threats alike. In King's Landing, Cersei surrendered to neutral custody, wildfire stalks drained into sea by Davos and Bywater. Renly returned to High Garden with promise of festivals come spring. Stannis sailed homeward to Dragonstone, fuming yet grudgingly named Master of Ships, his honor appeased by duty. Tywin rode for Casterly Rock to rebuild fortunes battered. Joffrey, captured on Roserad, placed under silent guard at Quiet Isle. On mercy Ned Stark insisted. At Moat Cailin, masons raised timber halls, scribes drafted charters, and clans from Frostfangs to Dornish marches sent tokens of new allegiance, pinecones, lemons, pearls. Tommen presided, cheeks reddened by cold, heart warmed by new bonds. Each ruling he passed first through elders, Ned Stark for justice, Garland Tyrell for coin, Davos for ships, Arya for roads, Bran for memory. One night, alone atop battlements, Tommen watched green-white curtains of aurora ripple north. Footsteps padded, barrack, cloak fluttering. The realm's at peace, Tommen whispered, awe lacing words. For now. Beric rested hand on hilt. But darkness rises. I've seen knights dead thrice walk again. We must ready more than treaties. Tommen nodded slowly. Then next council we plan for winter beyond politics. Beric smiled, a rare, soft curve. The king grows. Deep in the crypts of Winterfell, Bran Ward dreamed through ravens soaring over endless ice. In visions he saw the Mercy King stand upon walls of black stone, sword of pale flame raised against a night without stars. And beside him crouched a dire wolf with eyes of molten gold, a lion cub riding its back into dawn. Bran woke, shivering, but smiling. Paths shifted when feet touched snow, and snow blanket now covered every road. But beneath, seeds of mercy sprouted, roots entwining houses once severed by blood. So the north watched, the wall held, and a boy's gentle heart guided swords sharper for having pledged they would never draw first. Winter had come. Peace, improbable as spring tulips in snow, had come with it. Whether it would outlast the thaw remained unwritten, but in a land ever ruled by iron and fire, even a single season of mercy felt like a miracle the singers would one day, in warm halls no matter how distant, turn to song. Okay. No. Wind snarled across the battlements of Moat Cailin, sifting flakes of frozen spray off the causeway pools and painting Tommen's cheeks with needles. The boy king stood alone at the highest parapet, thick sable cloak snapping behind him like a torn banner. Far below, new-hewn timber halls glowed hearth orange through arrow slits. The smell of pine resin and hot pitch drifted up each time the wind veered south. Engineers shouted, pulleys creaked, oxen bellowed. Yet their distant racket struck Tommen as small against the hush rolling out of the vast white world beyond the neck. He drew a breath that tasted of iron and peat and snow. Somewhere in the haze where marsh faded to tundra, a horn boomed. 3 short blasts, then silence. It carried a warning learned only hours ago. A ranging party from the wall had reached the outer palisades, ragged and half-frozen, bearing tidings darker than the new moon. Tommen's knuckles whitened on the stone lip. A flutter of wings announced Bran's ravens arriving, settling like scraps of night upon the crenels. Bran himself emerged moments later, trundled in his wicker sledge, by 2 shaggy-haired spearmen. Gray wind padded beside them, tail low, eyes lambent gold. They're waiting, Bran said without preamble. Snowflakes turned his lashes silver. The rangers brought a man who died and walked again. Tommen swallowed. Bring them to the hall. They will not cross a threshold lit by fire, Bran answered. The dead fear the living hearth. Tommen looked down at his gloved hands. Then we carry the hearth to them. Smoke rose in gray torsions above the northern muster ground. By the time Ned and Robb arrived, cloaks rhymed with road frost. Hundreds of torches cast quivering halos over a semicircle of lords, soldiers, and wildlings, all facing the stretched hide pavilion at the camp's edge. 2 horses stood sweating beneath ropes that lashed a closed pen made of oak shield boards. Inside, something moved with the erratic gait of a marionette. A corpse, hands bound in chains hammered of dragonglass links and iron. Its eyes burned glacial blue beneath the hood of its own knitted entrails. Davos Seaworth, bareheaded in the cold, guarded the pen beside Lord Glover. Between them lay a charred heap that might once have been a second white. Green flame still hissed from the blackened bones. Robb halted near the lantern circle. When did it stop burning? Moments ago, Davos said. The living fire clung longer than I feared, shorter than I hoped. Ned studied the writhing creature. Each breath steamed through a ragged slash in its throat. And the dragonglass binds? Holding, Glover answered, though he did not sound convinced. Torches parted. Jon Snow strode into view, ranger blacks patched with dun wolf pelt at the shoulders. Samwell Tarly followed clutching a leather ledger. Behind them moved Corin half a hand heavier with scar tissue, yet whole of purpose, and 2 giants in boiled leather coats, too small to hide their bulk. One giant carried a millstone of ice bound in rawhide straps, the other bore a broken weirwood branch like a club. Jon met Robb's gaze. We lost 30 coming south. 4 were ours by the time we reached the last river. Spears of bronze and torch kindling kept the rest at bay. Tommen stepped forward. The crowd hushed. He lifted his voice, cracking but clear. "Show the realm the face of winter." Sam fumbled open his ledger. "Dragon glass kills them. Fire kills them. Valyrian steel kills them. Nothing else slows them long. Menduanets. Then we forge every flint-knapped black stone we can draw from the volcanoes of Dragonstone," Davos said. "Dragonstone bows to Stannis," growled a deep voice. The speaker proved taller by half a head than Edmure Tully. Sir Godry Faring, the biggest of Stannis knights, flanked by Queen's men in crimson cloaks, emblazoned with the fiery heart. His grace requires fealty before he gifts his island's treasures. Ned stepped between Faring and the boy king. Shadow stretching large as his convictions. "We convened here to shield the living, not to barter for titles." Faring sneered. "My king will not kneel to a snow-crowned cub, even if half the lords of Westeros have grown soft on tales of mercy." Robb's hand found the wolf-bent sword at his hip, but Bran's voice sliced the night. "Enough." The crippled boy stared at Godry with eyes too old for his body. "Kneel, or the old gods take your tongue." The threat sounded absurd from a child in deer fur blankets, until every torch bent inward as one, flame leaping a foot high in a single exhalation of wind. Godry's sneer faltered. He knelt. Bran's head lolled back, ice-crusted tears in eyelashes. Gray wind's hackles smoothed. The torches settled. Tommen recovered first. "We cannot afford another civil war," he said, voice shaking only a little. "Sir Godry, ride at dawn for Dragonstone. Tell King Stannis he is named Warden of the Seas and Lord of the Black Vents. Every dragon-glass blade struck there will bear his sigil on the hilt. Only ask that the blades be sent north." Faring opened his mouth to retort, then shut it again. Finally he nodded. "I will carry your offer." Davos looked relieved, until a horn sounded from the outer watchtowers. One long mournful call. Riders approached from the south. Lilac dawn found the Mada's courtyard crowded again, this time with envoys of Highgarden and Dorne sharing a single standard. White dove rising from a field half green, half orange. Lady Margaery Tyrell dismounted, cheeks flushed by cold, and the 70-league gallop from the headwaters of the Blue Fork. Prince Quentyn Martell followed, hood thrown back, his dark hair rime-peppered. Between them rode a third envoy whose arrival scoured every murmur from the yard, Jaime Lannister, one hand still. The Kingslayer wore no armor, only a road-stained jerkin and a gold linen cloak pinned with a brooch shaped like a broken sword. When he swung down, snow puffed under his boot. His gaze flicked to Ned, lingered on Catelyn, then dropped to Tommen. "I come at the behest of my nephew," he said. "Joffrey Baratheon, or perhaps I should say, the lad once seated on the Iron Throne." Cold eyes probed the assembly. "Joffrey has accepted the peace compact, but he demands a seat at this table, else Lannister swords march north to claim him one." Robb laughed without humor. "Tywin's swords have rusted on their own spite. Bring them. We burned worse at the Blackwater." Jaime's smirk did not reach his eyes. "My father is dead, poisoned in his own saddle wine. 3 nights ride south of the Trident. His lions wander leaderless." Silence rippled outward. Ned closed his eyes a heartbeat, then opened them steel swift. "Who killed him?" "Some say Varys. Some swear it was Lord Roose Bolton, who vanished from our flank. Others whisper a faceless man's price finally paid." Jaime shrugged. "Dead is dead." Catelyn felt warmth rush her cheeks. "If Joffrey desires counsel, he may find it here. But he will not sit a throne." Margaery stepped between them. "No throne remains." The wildfire holocaust melted the iron seat to slag. A smith found the fused lump smoking 2 days after the siege broke. The gods themselves stripped crowns away. Tommen drew breath. Then let us end crowns for all. Let the realm be ruled by council, its leader chosen by season, its laws lit by hearth, not tyrant. Now. Jaime's gaze lingered on the boy, pulling taut with something like rue. Give the lion cub a bone, and he builds a garden. He murmured. Very well. Joff will hear your terms. Prince Quentyn produced a scroll stamped with a sun and spear in crimson wax. Dorne accepts the confederation, provided our borders remain inviolate and the mountain's head stays on its spike. We dispatch 10,000 spears against the creatures beyond the wall. Ned inclined his head. Winterfell thanks Sunspear. Winterfell will have its due, Quentyn said quietly. My sister begs leave to foster here, far from sand and heat, to study the ways of the north. He did not add the rest. For a royal hostage kept safe, Sunspear would slice traitors from its belly if need be. Tommen turned toward Grey Wind, scratching the direwolf's ears. Let us agree. He looked up at Bran, then Robb, then Ned. We need every blade. Days blurred. Casks of dragonglass arrived on mule-drawn sleds from the smoking sea. Dornish spears marched into moorland camps. Tyrell wagons disgorged barrels of pickled beets and apples. Ironborn longships escorted by crimson sails brought whale oil and pine tar for torches. In the yards of Moat Cailin forges hammered dragonglass arrowheads by the thousand. Maesters tore pages from septon tomes to twist into flaming bottles. Giants hauled timbers into palisade extensions. Wildlings taught lowland masons to weave dead branches into wattle walls, packed with frozen sod harder than stone. Arya drilled night watch recruits in water dancer footwork. Jaime, left hand strapped useless, sparred Bran's mind inside Hodor's borrowed frame, discovering new humility. Ned sat every council session, brow knit, putting quill to parchment for a civil code that would outlast any king. And Tommen listened, always listened. His doll-sized courage grown into something sterner. Littlefinger's letters still arrived, perfumed and sly, offering coin, spies, new grain roots. Varys received them in silence, burned everyone, and dispatched ravens bearing false replies. Let him think us dancing to his flute, the spider whispered to Arya, who happened to catch him at the rookery one night. When he plucks the final note, we will have already changed the tune. Midwinter's Eve. A moonless dark when stars glittered knife-keen over the frozen bogs. The watch's horns sounded thrice from the northern ramp. Riders surged to saddles. On the marsh's far edge, shapes rolled out of the fog like surfacing reefs, an army of corpses, thousands. Blue torches burned in empty sockets. Limb-tattered banners flapped soundless. Among them, pale giants lumbered astride woolly mammoths draped in chainmail of ice. And at their center glided tall figures in mail of frost, eyes blazing sapphire, white walkers. Robb marshaled lines. Jon took command of the wall's outer trench. Beric lit his sword. Thoros splashed oil along the rampart edge. Davos ferried crates of glass-tipped quarrels to archers. Ned donned the wolf's head helm he had worn when war first stole him from Winterfell, heart-hammering older but no less fierce. Tommen climbed the signal tower, lantern trembling in mittened fist. Bran waited below in his sledge, eyes rolled white. Grey Wind paced, silent. First flight of whites hit the pickets and burst like rotten gourds on rings of trenches filled with pitch. Flame pillars roared sky-high, momentarily brightening the dead ice legion. Giants threw boulders, they smashed parapets, crushed men. Wildling javelins punched through giant hides. Dragonglass heads hissed inside meat, smoke curling where magic met frozen marrow. A White Walker advanced, frost blade smoking blue. Jaime tried to parry one-handed. The cold steel bit half through his longsword like cheese. Only Bran's giant guide tackled the icy night, both tumbling into a trench of dragonglass stakes that hissed and blazed white. But the dead kept coming. For every corpse that lay still, 5 clambered over. The living fell back to the final wall before the motte. Bastard boys from the Barrowlands screamed. Dornish spears bristled. Tyrell knights prayed. Ironborn cursed. Then a horn answered from the south, coppery, brash. Torch beams danced on bronze scales, as a line of unsullied marched out of the swamp mists, led by a woman on a black stallion. Silver hair streamed. 3 dragons circled overhead, their shadows rippling across the dead ranks. Daenerys Targaryen had come. The largest beast, midnight and ember, opened jaws. Its roar drowned all else. River of fire raced over whites, over frost knights, over mammoths. Ice shattered to steam, bone to ash. The shock wave lifted steam that froze and fell as diamond hail. Men cheered so loudly the night trembled. Dany reined before Tommen's tower, flame reflections dancing in purple eyes. I heard a Mercy King needed dragons. She shouted over the inferno. Tommen almost dropped the lantern. And a dragon queen heard the realms cry. They clasped forearms like equals as ash drifted between. But not all walkers melted. Their leader, helm wrought of keening ice, raised a hand. Fallen men on the field jerked, stood again, eyes turning blue. Dragons roared, flames licked, but the risen ones marched through conflagration untouched. Jon Snow snarled. Bright hearts on me. He brandished Longclaw. The Valyrian steel glinted red amid the glow. Davos, Beric, Jaime with Oathkeeper, even Ned bearing ice reforged into 2 narrower blades, stepped into wedge formation. Arya shadow danced behind, needle in hand. They charged. Wind howled round them. Frost flowers blossomed on steel. The Night King met Yon's swing with a sword of pale crystal. Sparks of red flame and blue frost cascaded. Ned struck low. The Ice Knight parried, but Beric's burning sword cleaved through its knee, stumbling the monster. Jaime shoved Oathkeeper through its back. The Night King whirled, knocking the blade aside. Sparks hissed white off Valyrian edges. High above, Bran's eyes rolled wider. Ravens left the towers in a black fountain, swirling into a cyclone. They plunged, screaming, around the Night King. Blinding eyes of frost. Tommen, watching, felt power stir. Old gods or new, he could not say. He only knew the pattern Bran carved in the air mattered. One raven broke from the storm, carrying a shard of dragonglass gripped in claws. It swooped, arrow swift, and drove the shard into the Night King's exposed throat where Jaime's earlier slash had chipped away a scale-like plate. The crystal blade pierced blue fire. A sound like shattering glaciers cracked the night. Light fountained up in spiral. Snow evaporated. Whites crumpled. Silence rolled wide. Surviving walkers retreated into dark, their army collapsing like puppets cut from strings. First sunrise in weeks bled crimson across east. Steam drifted over carcasses of man, giant, and nightmare. Robb knelt by Bran, whose nose bled bright red onto fur. You saw the path. Bran's pupils shrank back to mortal size. I saw many. This was the only one with dawn. Bodies were burned for 7 days. Dragons baptized the pyres in cleansing heat, onion sweet with pitch pine. Snow melted to mud. Mud froze to glass. Peace settled heavy, like the exhaustion after fever breaks. In the half-built assembly hall, envoys gathered again, singed, limping, but alive. Dany stood beside Tommen at the high table, Jon Snow on one flank, Arya on the other. Ned, Robb, Catelyn, Davos, Margaery, Quentyn, Godry, Garland, even Sandor Clegane wearing a fresh singe across his cheek, filled benches. Varys leaned near a back column, and beside him, Petyr Baelish, smirk half arrest, hands clasped as though in prayer. Tommen's voice carried, "No iron chair will rule us. Instead we forge a ring, every great house a link, no link above the other." He lifted the twist of bronze that once belonged to Ned. "This ring held my finger when hope was small. Let it become our crown, shared by season across this council." He handed it first to Daenerys. She weighed it, smiled, passed to Jon, who passed to Margaery, to Ned, to Quentyn, to the giant named One Weg, until it returned to Tommen. He set it upon the stone dais beside a simple wooden gavel. "Let the realm be sworn not to one lord but to one another." Voices rose in assent, some hoarse, some hesitant, all irrevocable. Baelish's eyes flicked to Varys. The spider only nodded, as if to say, the tune, at last, had changed. That night, under clearer skies than any yet that winter, Jon Snow stood atop the Motta's highest stair with Daenerys at his side. Ghost sat at heel. Drogon perched on the half-cured rampart timber like a gargoyle. Jon pointed north. We're not finished. The heart of that storm remains beyond the Frostfangs. Somehow, the Night King rose once. Another may rise if we leave ice unguarded. Then 10. And we will guard it, Dany said. Dragons and wolves together. He looked at her, eyes dark, earnest, then down to the courtyard where Tommen chased Bran's ravens with Grey Wind's pups yipping behind. Maybe, Jon whispered, we give those children a world where play is all they know of battle. Dany laid gloved fingers over his. Begin tomorrow. Stars wheeled overhead, silent witness to packs of flame, stone, and snow. And though winter still gripped the land, its bite blunted now by unity, the air at last smelled faintly, of spring sap stirring in the cores of the weirwoods, of wild roses banking their strength beneath ice for the bloom to come, of wheat dreaming under snowfields of future sun. In that fragile scent lay promise, not of perfect peace, but of a realm that had learned, by the blood of many and the mercy of one small boy, that the longest night can be endured, and if hearts hold fast together, even outlasted. K.A.N.D. Night lingered in a shawl of violet, when ravens burst from the Moat Cailin rookery, and scattered southward like ink flung across a fading map. Petyr Baelish watched their dark silhouettes vanish past the torchlit causeway, and felt the chill of them in his bones. Beyond the plank and stone parapet, a world newly stitched together by mercy already showed fraying at its seams. Tyrell carters grumbled that Dornish outriders filched their grain. A giant smeared with pitch argued with Glover smiths about the forge schedule. And somewhere in the low barracks, the rough cough of flux passed from throat to throat despite every healer's herb. To most these were the spasms of any refugee encampment, but to Petyr they were loose threads begging for a tug. He drew his cloak tight and descended the stair. Inside the half-finished long hall, Tommen held counsel with figures who would once have dwarfed him to irrelevance. Jon Snow leaned against a timber post, arms wrapped in black fur. Daenerys stood opposite beneath the carved direwolf banner, shoulders ringed by a nimbus of frost-caught lampglow. Davos thumbed a parchment of ship tallies while Margaery Tyrell poured mulled cider for Prince Quentyn and Godry Faring. On a rush-strewn dais, Bran Stark's sledge stood like a small altar. His ravens rustled restlessly overhead, magnifying the hush that fell whenever he spoke. So the free folk report 20 villages north of the Milkwater swallowed by snowdrifts 3 men tall. Jon was saying. They found tracks both human and something larger. Spider-like, each print wide as a helm. Daenerys frowned. Ice spiders of the old tales? Samwell Tarly, quill tucked behind one ear, nodded grim confirmation. The mine governors who fought the long night recorded such beasts. Frost brands their silk. Only dragonfire seals their burrows. Tommen listened. Fingers twined round Ned's bronze ring. Then dragons we shall send. Petyr cleared his throat. A noble impulse, your grace, but consider the cost. If Drogon and Rhaegal fly beyond the Frostfangs, the south may bristle at being guarded by naught but good intentions. Trade could strangle before it draws first full breath. Margaery's brows knit oddly. We Tyrells pledged harvest enough to feed 10 realms. Yet that grain rots in holdfasts for want of northern roads thawed. Without dragons' heat perhaps fields, south must grow more than wheat. Grow resentment. Daenerys' eyes flashed violet. We ride for the heart of winter. Let the realm crush resentment with gratitude. Menral. Petyr bowed a shade deeper than mockery. As your grace wills. Still, I keep tally. He flicked a speck of dust from his sleeve. One wonders which tally will bleed the boy king scarlet first, empty granaries or empty thrones. Jon's voice cut through. Enough. He gestured to Tommen. The king has spoken. If House Baelish doubts, let House Baelish ride. Winter honors courage. Peter's smile did not reach his eyes. I merely protect the purse until the realm can afford sainthood. From Bran's sled came a whisper like wind through bare branches. Sainthood yields poor interest. The boy's pale stare fixed Petir. But we invest regardless. Ravens croaked in chorus, and Petir felt a prickle behind his ears, a sense the child saw levers hidden even to him. He withdrew, bow feather light, and left the council to its daring. That night, Arya patrolled the inner walls, needle at hip, Gendry's hammer slung across her back. Snow hissed beneath her boots. Watchfires spat resin sparks into the dark. Above, the aurora unfurled ribbons of ghost green that made shadows boil. At the western barbican, she found Varys leaning on a merlon, staring at a single candle, set in a lantern far below on the causeway road. Littlefinger intends the candle as well, the spider murmured, not looking at her. Arya followed his gaze. Who carries it? An old septon with a young captive. Varys' mouth tightened. Joffrey broke Quiet Isle's peace at dusk. He rides here clasped in lies. Arya's fingers brushed Needle's pommel. Why tell me? You run faster than ravens. She slipped away without a word, racing down stairwells slick with frost. Within minutes she seized a roan from the eastern stable and spurred through the postern gate. Snow lashed her cheeks. Grey Wind's shadow bounded beside her, summoned by Bran's silent call. They vanished into the dark marsh. On the southern approach, a lantern bobbed like a star rocking on black water. The kneeling swamp had swallowed the road. Horses trudged belly deep in half-frozen mire. Atop the lead gelding rode a gaunt boy swaddled in gray. Joffrey. Though stripped of velvet and jewels, he looked another urchin fleeing plague. The old septon, guiding his reins, muttered hymns. A shape detached from alder trees ahead. Arya Stark, sword tip resting on the muddied plank. Grey Wind prowled to her flank, breath curling. The gelding reared, nearly unseating its burden. We come in peace, the septon cried. Liar, Arya said. The quiet brothers heal. They don't steal. Joffrey flung back his cowl, fury flaring. Unhand me, peasant, or Tywin flays your wolf alive. Tywin's worm food, Arya answered. And you stole his stink. The septon tried to soothe, but Grey Wind bared teeth. Arya drew needle till moonlight kissed its steel. You'll come as hostage or corpse. Choose. She wanted him to choose poorly. Sister's tears and Sansa's broken songs clanged inside her skull. But Mercy's lesson scraped like frostbite. Needle hovered. Joffrey spat, slid from saddle, hands trembling. When Arya bound his wrists, he hissed vows of vengeance. She ignored him, guiding the conspiracy back toward Moat Cailin through tracks, lit only by grim dawn. Petir Baelish greeted them at the gate, outrage wrapped tight as sable. You risk fracturing every thread I wove. Arya shoved Joffrey forward. Threads tighten or snap. Petir's smile twitched. They snap, wolf girl. And when they do, even crows starve. Tommen stood behind the portcullis, candle in hand, cheeks gone clay pale. Joffrey glared daggers, but the boy king met the gaze steady. I offer terms, he said. Share in council. Let the ring pass to you each harvest. We bind houses by seasons. Then? Joffrey laughed bitterly. Rings are for maidens. Thrones are forged, not passed like porridge bowls. He turned to Petir. Bring me swords, Lord Baelish. This farce ends tonight. Petir hesitated, eyes flicking between embers of opportunity and ice of risk. Then Bran's voice drifted from the rampart. Swords obey men, and men obey stories. Yours has ended. At once ravens billowed from tower slits, swirling around Joffrey until torchlight vanished. Feathers beat like thunder. When they parted, the former king lay shaking on his knees, eyes empty of any color but fear. Grey Wind nudged him toward the keep, like a chastened pup. Tommen released a breath. You will sit, not on a throne, but on the council bench, for as long as it takes to learn the weight of mercy. Joffrey sobbed, but nodded. No one rejoiced. Even Arya felt surprise curdle into uneasy respect. Petir's smile returned brittle. How deftly the cub plays lion tamer. Tommen turned. And you, Lord Petir, will remain as master of coin. A flicker of triumph crossed Baelish's face. Under the eye of Grand Maester Samuel, the triumph died. Sam blinked, terrified but resolute. Petyr bowed. The realm is fortunate. 3 weeks later, the dragons launched. Snowfields blazed under their bellies as Jon Daenerys and a spearwing of unsullied sword passed the Frostfang peaks toward the heart of winter. Below, a column of free folk, giants, and watch rangers trudged on war-guided paths. Bran's ravens swept ahead while gray wind ran beneath his living standard. At Moat Cailin, Tommen oversaw smithies day and night, turning dragon-gifted obsidian into arrowheads. Margaery marshaled Tyrell healers. Quentyn organized Dornish flame javelins. Davos, Godry, and Jaime drilled mixed companies into phalanxes. Sansa, newly arrived with shattered voice strong again, coordinated grain lines. Ned wrote laws. Varys uprooted spies loyal to no realm but chaos. Arya disappeared into the forests with the faceless shard she had taken from the assassin, whispering its secrets. One midnight Bran confronted Petyr beside the reflecting pool that collected meltwater off the new battlements. "You fear a realm without ladders." Petyr smiled, but true unease dulled it. "A realm without ladders is a pit. Then build bridges. Bridges bear tolls. I prefer dividends." Bran's fingers brushed the water. Ripples birthed images. A younger Petyr dueling Brandon Stark. A coin changing hands in the street of silk. A knife pressed to a knight's throat. "You have always paid." Someone else rate. The Mockingbird's facade faltered. "What do you want?" "Help. One more scheme. For life, not chaos." North, in endless white, Jon and Daenerys reached a valley where the snow glare hurt the eyes. Columns of ancient ice formed archways, each etched by runes older than the first men. Lightning crackled inside the blue. It hummed a dirge. Bran's ravens perched along a ridge. Through their eyes he saw the source. A fissure in the glacier pulsing like a frozen heart. Within waited a shape half man, half winter itself. Another night king gestating in silence. Jon felt the air freeze around Longclaw's hilt. Dany sensed Drogon shudder under her. Sam's records had spoken of the cradle, an arcane forge where each night king was birthed by ritual sacrifice of stolen children beneath a blackened weirwood. The last child had been taken in the chaos after the battle. The Bolton ward, a babe brought south as tithe for some hidden pact. They descended. Unsullied formed a circle. Giants raised shields of mammoth hide. Jon and Dany approached the fissure. Longclaw and dragons fire their prayers. Inside lay the babe, icicles for swaddling. A walker priest knelt, arms outstretched, chanting sparks of cold. Jon leapt, cleaving the priest's arm. Valyrian steel ignited frost and blue flame. Dany sent Drogon's breath pouring into the chamber. Ice shrieked. The crib melted. The child fell into Jon's waiting cloak, crying. At the valley rim thousands of wights stirred. But Bran's ravens swooped, each carrying a thread of ancient song. Their cawing knitted into a harmony older than speech, binding stones and sky. Snow eddied upward, forming a veil that stalled the dead. Giants hurled avalanches down slopes. Unsullied hurled dragons' glass javelins. Drogon and Rhaegal torched paths of retreat. Jon passed the child to Dany. "Back to the living," he said. She nodded, leapt astride Drogon, and vanished into dawnglow. Jon turned to face waves of death. Longclaw rose, fell, drank frost, and fed heat. By the time dawn bled scarlet, he stood knee-deep in blackened snow. Lungs aflame, but the wights lay quiet at last, and no fresh walker crept forth. At Moat Cailin, Bran exhaled. Ravens returned, twittering triumph. In the courtyard, the bronze ring passed again, hand to hand. Daenerys now bearing it as she dismounted. The rescued babe slept warm in her arms. Tommen beamed. Even Joffrey, watching from a bench, wore a look closer to wonder than scorn. Petyr approached Bran that evening at the parapet. "You wove the last knot." "The pit grows shallow," Bran answered. "Climb out or drown." Petyr stared into the dark where winter receded. At last he nodded, eyes shuddered. Bridges, then. He unclipped the mockingbird pin, dropped it into the reflecting pool. Ripples swallowed silver. Spring came late but certain. When the snows finally surrendered, crocus spears pierced thawing mud around the new council ring. Children chased kites, shaped like wolves, lions, roses, and dragons, across the cleared yard where once corpses burned. Tommen, still slight for his 11 years, learned smithcraft from Gendry's old notes and hammered the first council gavel himself. Bronze-crowned with a mosaic of colored glass shards, obsidian for night quelled, ruby for fire, sapphire for ice, jade for fields restored, pearl for truce at sea. He marked each gavel blow, not with proclamations of lands seized or taxes raised, but questions. Whose granary needs? Which river floods? And lords answered, and the answers wrote a story unlike any singers had penned in quill or harp. Some nights pettier still traced numbers beneath candlelight, but now they measured grain grants to orphan villages, or ferry subsidies that bound Dornish ports to island markets. Varys watched and, for first time in memory, merely recorded instead of nudging. Arya led a band of ranger apprentices, girls and boys both, who patrolled woods ensuring no levy pressed beyond need. Jon returned to Castle Black with giants and free folk to rebuild shattered towers. Daenerys remained at Moat Cailin, dragons nesting on a ridge of basalt, warmed by hidden springs. In their heat, the first apple blossoms burst a fortnight early. Ned and Catelyn walked the ramparts one twilight, hand in hand. Snowmelt cascaded off eaves. The air smelled of cedar smoke and wet earth. "We sacrificed honor to save hope," Catelyn whispered. "And found honor remade," Ned replied. Below them, Bran rolled through the gate on newfound braces carved by giants, smiling as Hodor steadied him. Sansa directed workers filling planters with southern soil for unfamiliar flowers. Joffrey ran with Grey Wind's pups tossing a wooden ball. The pups outtraced him, but each time they returned the ball, he laughed. Crows called from the weirwood copse, and wind carried their voices south, across a continent still mending. Kings no longer reigned in gilded keeps. Instead, a circle of seats waited, season after season, for whoever came willing to bear the ring and the weight of every name it represented. And even though stories would one day stretch this season into legend, embroidering deeds no mortal could have wrought, the truth would linger in the marrow of stone and the breath of rivers, that the realm survived because a spider and a mockingbird set aside webs and ladders, because wolves and lions learned to run side by side, because flame kissed frost without extinguishing either, and, most fragile, most improbable, he loved, most